Hello and welcome to Aetheryte Radio Gamers Gives Final Fantasy XIV podcast. I'm FusionX for the first time. Joining us today, we've got Zen, Aldianaux, Rook, and joining us, we've got Galaxy and Sonya. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for joining.
All right. So today we're going to talk about women in content creation. First, we do have a little bit of news, which is weird because I feel like we haven't had any for a while
at all.
It's been a little bit of a drought. The special site is up for patch 5.3, so we finally got just a little bit of new stuff. Not a lot of new stuff, but a little bit of new stuff. Lots of pictures though. So
Look at the pictures.
we have pictures. There's like the one guy and the other guy, and there's the people and the one dude
And the weapon.
And there's that one lady.
Yes.
With the
I don't know.
Yeah,
if
we were
seeing that one lady at all. You know,
it's crazy. We were chatting a little bit before the show. They've got the some dungeon pictures. So we have the new set of armor, which is like very like Dark Knight inspired, I think, for a couple of those, right? But then you have the new boss for the Heroes Gauntlet dungeon that's coming out, and oh my gosh, my timeline the other day with just fan art and fan art and fan art of this character, which is like I don't think we've ever had that for a dungeon boss before, where it's just everybody is crazy.
There's been some aggressive love for this dungeon boss.
Yeah.
And like I was saying right before we started, a lot of fan art of People's Warriors of Light wearing the outfit that she is wearing, which I'm also like, okay, maybe a new Mog Station item. Maybe we get that in there.
If they
It's weird money. Because there's part of me, I'm like, everybody's like, so this boss, and I'm like, it watches like not even like the final boss, watches like a mid boss.
Yeah.
Like it is, and then you get the final boss, and it's just like this weird reskin or something. Like, yeah, it's weird.
Like zooming into the picture because I was like, what is wrong with this? Is the light back in the sky? Like, are those meteors falling? Like, if you really zoom into like the scenery picture of the dungeon, I'm like, what is happening? Yeah.
It's interesting too, because if you actually read the little bit of information that they have about this, it says it is said that the hero's path is fraught with danger, and these words will never ring true as the whole of Norvrant becomes a battlefield across which the warrior of darkness must fight their way. The whole of like that's okay. I mean, this looked like it Gauntlet, just took place on like the side of Ilmeg, but I'm really curious now if we're gonna have different areas that are about like
I mean, it's an Ilmeg all about illusions anyway.
It's true.
It could be. I mean, it could all just be one big illusion that takes us through like different areas. And I hope that's the case, because we were talking about this when we first even got the information or like a picture that looked like it might be Ilmeg. It's like, we've already done a lot there. We have the Pixie Beast Tribe.
Right.
We have the other dungeon that's there. So I am really hoping that it does end up being more of like a journey than just the Ilmeg setting, which it seems like it will be.
Yeah, I mean, the first picture we had, it was just like, it's just like, it felt very like Grand Cosmos Courtyard-ish, I think is what it reminded me the most of. And I was like, eh.
Right.
But I am curious now. I am a little more curious to see what they do.
To make people excited.
Yeah.
And apparently it worked.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sonya, Galaxy, are you both looking forward to the relic grind? Do you usually like launch into that, or?
Yes
so much.
And no.
Yes and no.
Yeah, not excited for the grind, excited to see the upgrades and stuff, but I do like a whole different side of the game than a lot of people do, so it's not really my cup of tea. I'm more excited about possible furnishings and stuff like that coming out. So
Yes. We've been talking a ton about the fact that with the patch lull, a lot of people are getting into housing for the first time. And I know you've done housing for a long time. I've seen some of your builds on stream and things, which are super cool. New housing items always like A+, 10 out of 10. Very excited about.
Yeah.
I love the thing in the housing menu where you can preview everything that's just new. So every time they add new stuff, there's no question as to what's new. It's right here. Go preview it. Then you have to go find it. But whatever. That's
that was one of the best things they ever added. I love that. Yeah, that was such a great
so
addition.
much money, because I used to just go buy something and be like, oh, it doesn't fit the space that I needed. Great, I just spent 200K.
Right.
Okay? And it's bound to me now.
You see something on the market board, you're like, oh, I wonder what this looks like, and you buy it, you spend like a few $100K on it, you put it in, you're like, eh. But then it's dropped, you can't do anything with it. This is why I have like 4 retainers with just furniture items.
Yeah. Exactly, because then you're like, well, what if I use it later? I don't want to just like have to dump it, so then you need to store it somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We do have a little blurb about the mystery trial. It's still a mystery trial. We still don't know what it is, but they say a fearsome new foe possessed of immeasurable might shall arise to test the warriors of darkness as they have never been tested before.
Right, and that is
the Unreal.
Yeah, is that? It's another Savage or Extreme trial.
Yeah, it's a different trial, and it has something to do with the story. We just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, it's not the weapons either. It's something different.
So
I was surprised too, because I believe that Yoshida said in some of the accompanying information that Xenos is not going to be really strongly featured in this upcoming patch. And I'm over here being like, oh, we're going to fight like Xenos, but maybe also get a little bit of like the darkness in there, and like all this stuff that we kind of are hypothesizing he might be doing in opposition to Hydaelyn. But it doesn't seem like it. I have no idea.
Well, it's weird because it specifically says a fearsome new foe. So like, okay, we know who Xenos is. We know about Zodiark. Zodiark isn't new. So like,
if they say new, so.
I don't know. I'm really curious. It's probably gonna be one of those things we get to it and we're just like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
I like Serp in chat says sounds like a Gilgamesh fight. Yeah, I think it's probably Gilgamesh.
Oh, we were just talking about where Hildebrand's been.
Yeah, good old Greg. Yeah, where is Hildebrand? It's Hildebrand.
You know what it'll be is we'll get into this fight with one of these new like white robed mysterious people, and then out of nowhere he'll just like there's a portal that just opens up. Greg just falls down, sits on the guy, just completely wipes him out, and then we have to fight Greg. He's like, oh, you again.
And he'll finally drop joke weapons for us.
He'll just come swinging into the main story. He'll just Gilgamesh saved the day, but still won't drop a broom for your dragoon to fight with. Yep. All right. And then we have a couple new pictures of the ruby weapon for the Sorrow of Werlit. So yeah, some pretty cool pictures. There's some key art for the ruby weapon as well. So yeah, that is it. That's all we have for right now, though. There will be a live letter.
24
minutes.
24 minutes.
From this release. This release. We do have.
I'm excited to zoom into those little tiny figures in the background because you know that they're wearing the new armor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I also saw that apparently the armor this go around was designed by 14's team, as opposed to being taken specifically from Nier, but it's being like overseen in conjunction with the collaborators from Nier, obviously. So I'm kind of going like, I wonder what we're gonna get from this one.
Yeah,
what new glam do I have coming?
The gear the first time around was like the clear, like, this is what everybody wants. This is the reason why we have a Nier collaboration. Now we'll get this out of the way, and then we'll do some other stuff.
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see if I ever get weapons, though. I mean, that was a little bit of what people wanted to, and after the 2B costume, right, was the weapons. But
I'm excited to see how a book made from Nier will disappoint me. Yeah.
You don't know.
I mean, they've got the it'll just be like the I forget what those weapons were, but it'll just be like the one with the face on it. It'll have like the little Emil face on it.
Yeah.
Wait, you're not talking about the one that has the like old tree man face on it, are you?
Yes. It was like
something.
It was like it wasn't quite relic, but it was like kind of like job specific-y weapons, like in like 2.0. Like there was just like a set of.
You get it from Revenant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll just be like that, but with the Nier mask.
It's so terrible. I remember in my mind I was like, oh, that might be kind of fun, like a crone face on, and then I got it and I was like, oh my god, what is that hideous goblin?
Well, it's a thing that already exists too, if I recall. And I'm trying to think, right? I think I saw it on it's weird. I have one of the Bring Arts figures that they have of 2P, and I bought some. They have like blind box weapons, and it has like a little booklet about the weapon that has the little Facebook. Yep. There you go. You're getting Facebook. Enjoy. Okay. It's just gonna get all up in your privacy and share all your data.
Fusion's made a terrible Facebook pun.
Yay!
Great so far.
We're off to a great start where I can't do the mics, and then we're talking about Facebook, and it's gonna be a great show. Great show. Okay, so that's it for the new site. We'll mention this again too, but there is a live letter next week on the 22nd. We're gonna get a whole bunch more info about the patch trailer, presumably this time. So keep an eye out for that. But that's going to take us into our main topic today. We're going to talk about women in content creation. And so we have Galaxy and Sonya joining us to help with this discussion. And so let's start off real quick for people that may not know you. How long have you been into content creation? What kind of stuff do you do? Galaxy, we'll start with you.
I have been Twitch streaming for like 10 months. 10 months, maybe 11 months. That's all I'm so new to it. So I love it, but yeah, I'm super duper new to it, but it's a fantastic experience.
I've been in
Final
it for
Fantasy.
5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
We just hit our 5-year mark a couple weeks ago.
That's awesome.
It seems pretty crazy that it's been that long. I also stream with my husband, so I'm not just a solo streamer. We do a co-op stream. So it's 2 of us on stream together, and we've been that way since we started. I'm surprised we haven't choked each other out at this point. But we're still going strong. 5 years later, we've been married for 10, and it's going really good. We really enjoy it.
Nice. So. That's amazing. And you both full-time stream now, right?
Yeah, we've been full-time streamers for 4.5 years.
My gosh, that long out of all of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Well done.
So
yeah.
Thank you.
What got you guys into it?
Honestly, we live in Michigan, and we kind of live in an area where technology isn't really like something people really get into, and we had a really hard time finding friends. And when we would go to conventions and stuff, we were just the 2 of us, so we kind of felt lonely. So we wanted to use it as a way to find more people that had interests that were the same as us, and it just grew into much more than we ever expected it to be. We never thought that it would end up being a career choice or anything like that. So it's 5 years in. We made a ton of friends, so great.
Hell yeah.
How about you, Galaxy? What got you into it?
Yeah.
I was like on a huge break. I just finished my last university degree. I have 3. So I just finally finished my last one. And I was just like on a big break. I was quitting my job, and I was like dealing with, this is going to get real. I'm sorry. I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression, right? I wasn't leaving the house. I think it was just more like, I finally finished this huge thesis, and I was like, ugh, I'm dead. So I was just in a big lull. One day, my boyfriend, bless his soul, came home with a webcam, and he's like, you play games all day. Stream them.
There you go.
That was
I
it.
love that.
That's awesome.
That was it. I'm still waiting to make it a full-time career choice, but one day.
Hey, you got partnership this year, which is huge. Last month, right?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Congrats.
That's fantastic. Like, that's honestly like a huge step towards making it something full-time.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's I was surprised. So I wasn't expecting it. But yeah, no, I did. So yeah. It's fun. It's been a wild ride.
That's the most important thing, right? To be able to find something you enjoy that you can also maybe make some money off.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it's incredible because Twitch brings so many things together, like empowering people who do, like Sonya, like you were saying, have these interests that don't always, like, it's not always easy to like express those interests or find other people that share those interests, and like getting into the industry or the gaming industry as a whole can be something that's like also a whole nother difficult challenge to overcome. And it's amazing seeing how content creation platforms like Twitch, I mean, have given so many of us the opportunity to like pursue what we love, but also to connect and affect people that also are looking for, like, people who share those same passions and interests, and to bring us all together in this way. And then you see that power kind of go beyond to things like even the fundraising and the charity work that Twitch has done. See like that community and generosity of spirit just kind of blossom, and especially in MMOs like 14, where community is such a big part of it. It's really cool.
The internet is crazy for bringing people together.
Right.
It really is. So moving into the Final Fantasy XIV community a little bit. Obviously, there are challenges that come with being a female streamer, and we'll talk a little bit about those. But how do you feel as a female content creator in the Final Fantasy XIV community?
I feel really comfortable, honestly. Tom and I streamed World of Warcraft for like 3 years straight, and we played other games like PUBG and CSGO and stuff like that as our main games for a long time too. We actually just recently swapped to Final Fantasy about 1.5 years ago, and I can tell a huge difference in the community compared to some of the other communities that we were playing in. I feel people treat people with more respect, and just a more comfy, cozy community than some of the other ones that we've been in.
I love how we're like all nodding in agreement. Like,
yeah, it's kind of been a theme across all of our latest podcasts, like the Pride podcast, the Black Lives Matter podcast. Everybody's been saying Final Fantasy XIV community is pretty nice compared to some other communities.
It seriously is. It's so much more accepting. Like, I came from Overwatch. I came from Overwatch.
I never knew that. Wow.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, no. When I first started, I was doing Overwatch, and I was doing competitive Overwatch, which a lot of people are
how did I not know this?
Yeah. I was up to Grandmasters, and I played mostly just strictly healers. And I liked it, but I found that, I mean, one, the environment as time went on in Overwatch got more toxic the more I played it. So like even just having my mic on during a match could sometimes halt the entire stream if we had people that were, you know, just throwing like all kinds of insults or just nastiness. And two, it did seem like the people that would come in from the community, some of them were amazing, but some of them got like weirder and weirder and weirder over time. And when I finally decided to switch over to 14, it was, Sonya, just like you said, it was like a totally different environment. Like the people that came in, I was like, oh, I like talking to all of these people. And I got excited and like doing stuff in game. It was just so much more welcoming. And it really does feel like the community, even if there are things that we talk about or that, you know, even in the game itself could be improved in some way. It's still really incredible to me that it has become such a welcoming space, you know?
It's interesting too, because I mean, we talked a little bit about that before, about the kind of genre of games and how that affects, you know, how people interact. And we always go back to kind of shitting on the FPS genre for toxicity. You know, there's a reason
I used to play Rainbow Six Siege.
Not
on stream, but oh my god, I would get like abusive DMs and things like that on PlayStation. Like if I got a kill or something like that, they're like, oh, but who uses a shotgun? It's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe everyone who plays this character just happened to get killed. Sorry.
It's like, you know, it just worked. So me, I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, it would be so weird. Like you'd be in the middle, I mean, especially in FPSs, like you'll be in the middle of a match and everybody will be totally polite and everybody on comms. And then the moment that you decide to open your comm up and then everybody realizes like, oh, that's a grill right there. It's like suddenly the whole tone of everything, like it's baffling. And Sonya, even in WoW, like you said, I mean, I played WoW for years before I eventually came to a bunch of other MMOs, but eventually made it to 14 and Guild Wars 2, which kind of ended up being my home. But even in like those settings, while the environment wasn't necessarily hostile towards like me playing a female character, and many of the people that I was playing with didn't really know whether or not I was a woman because I was just kind of getting into the game itself, the tone of the community could be very different. Like I thought I would never raid ever in an MMO after I tried in World of Warcraft and just got maliciously destroyed by randos in a learning group because they thought I was so terrible at the game, and they would not, like, I was getting like DMs and like all this harassment, and I was like, I told you I was brand new, what's going on? And now like here I am in a static and, you know, like clearing all the different tiers and really loving the endgame content in 14, because I did find that like overall a lot of that community does have a different tone. Even when you just queue into a dungeon and people say hello, it's a different tone sometimes than other games out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Galaxy, have you
definitely handles new people very well compared to some other games?
Right.
Yes. Galaxy, have you found 14 to be pretty like comfortable for you as well?
Yes, for the most part. I think the only time I've ever had difficulty was like when I was progging T for the first time. I think that was the only time I had any difficulty. But I love it. Like, it's such a comfy place. It's an accepting place. You find a whole variety of different people in Final Fantasy 14, and that's how you can tell that it's like really accepting. People aren't afraid to say, hey, I am a girl, or hey, I'm gay, or, you know, like it's lovely. I think it's a very awesome place.
This brings up an interesting question too.
Okay.
Go for it.
So we've been talking about how great it is, but I have had a bad experience raiding in 14. I've talked about it on the podcast before. I lead my own raid group, and I trialed a tank at one point. This was probably maybe 6 years ago, actually.
It was a long time, yeah.
It was still in Bahamut. Was it in Twin Tania? It was in Twin Tania. No. Doesn't matter. It was I think it was the beginning of the second part. Either way. So I trialed this tank, and I told them to stand in a specific place, and they didn't. So I asked them again, and they said, that's where I stood the time before. I'm like, well, you didn't stand where I asked you the time before. Could you move? And I'm trying to be pleasant to this person I don't know, you know, not be overly aggressive or whatever. And basically, they flipped out. I'm like, you need to stand in this place. Why are you arguing with me? Well, I know what I'm doing. You just told me this is your first time in here, and I've, with this group, beaten this boss before. You need to do what I say. Women shouldn't be raid leaders.
Yeah, that's immediately where it went.
Okay, well, you can get out now.
Trial over. You are not in the static.
Wow.
Bye-bye. You know, that is a good point, because I do think while the general community is really welcoming, there are like the moment you started telling that story, there have definitely been times in the more hardcore content scene where I do think that sometimes that side has shown itself. And it tends to stem, I mean, it seems like from people's frustration and their own pride and their own issues, right? But I know that like until I found the static that I was in here, while I had a lot of really positive experiences that helped like balance it out, there were a lot of times where we'd be progging stuff or things like that, and I would get like the range of things from like, you know, just a static I'd hopped into, or like pugs even. I'd get a range of things from, you know, like, oh, well, we need to help the girl through the mechanics, and like we're gonna babysit her through every single one. And if she doesn't seem like she's not getting, like, then we're gonna tell her about it. And I'm like, no, guys, I know I died. Like I stood in it. Like, you don't have to write me 6 paragraphs about how I stood in it. Like, I get it. Or, you know, things like that. Or even times where I did notice there was a very brief period of time that I was running with a group early on that was all guys except for myself. And there was this weird thing where like stuff would happen and I'd be like, well, that was so-and-so because such and such, this and that, like that's what happened. And then every single one of them would be like, no, it was definitely you. And I'd be sitting there like,
oh my God, that used to happen to me.
Yes. And I'd
not,
be like,
not in Final Fantasy, but like the exact kind of same situation.
Yes. And it was so weird.
At FPS.
Yeah. And I'd be saying to them like, no, I literally know what happened. I literally witnessed it happen. I was, you know, halfway across the arena. I literally saw it happen. And they'd be like, no. And I'd be like, you go back to that footage and you tell me that's not what happened. You go back, you take your time. Like, and it did. Like, there were moments or times where people like, I had somebody once tell me that they were going to teach me how to play white mage after I had already cleared all this stuff beyond them. And like, they were like, I'm gonna really help you. I'm gonna help you get so good at white mage. And I was like, buddy, I'm fine at white mage. Like, why are you, what? Like, we're good. But like, sometimes there are those weird things that I think come out in rating, but that I don't necessarily see elsewhere, which is kind of interesting.
So I have something to actually say about that. So Tom and I don't raid. If we do, it's very casual, once every couple months or something like that. We did raid like really hardcore in World of Warcraft, but we don't really get as much excitement out of it from Final Fantasy as we did with WoW, so we don't really do it as much. So most of our content is super casual. We run a huge free company, and it's all very social interaction. It's us doing little mini events like for people to socially engage and stuff like that. And there's obviously, with running a free company that's like 500 people, there's going to be people that don't get along. There's going to be people that leave, people that don't really like the community and stuff like that because it just doesn't work for them. Well, as a couple streamer, so we have a male and a female in the community. Tom is like the leader of the free company, and then I'm co-leader. We've noticed something over the last year and a half is that people, when they want to be hostile, they never message Tom. They always message me with their hostile messages, and then they just dip. Oh, my cat's coming to visit. So we have noticed that that's a huge thing. Like, I always message Tom, like, I understand that this person wasn't happy. It happens in every free company. People deal with it, you know? But it's always me that they message. And I don't know. I'm guessing it's because I'm female and they assume that I'm going to be more sensitive or something to the situation, and they just don't bother Tom with it. Or they're just trying to get a reaction out of people and stuff. But it's definitely always me. Like, I can say, like, out of the maybe 50 times over the past like 5 years that maybe something has probably happened where somebody's been super hostile, like 90% of them are always to me. Always.
Oh.
So it is super frustrating. Even on a social end, people can be super toxic and kind of sucks. But yeah, we haven't dealt with it as much in Final Fantasy, luckily. We did in WoW. The toxicity was a little bit higher over there, but not so much. We're lucky to not have it over here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an interesting point, because I was gonna say that too, as being like a couple that does streaming. I mean, I'm curious how that affects you versus like Galaxy or Rook or Zen, where they're just them, right? I'm curious, how is there any noticeable difference when you have Tom with you? Like, do you think that things are treated a little better overall, or does it not matter? Or?
I think it's a little bit better overall, because I do talk to my friends a lot and I hear some of the stories that they go through and stuff like that. It feels like we do get a little bit more respect on terms of like being a female streamer and stuff like that. Most of the times it's people coming in and more so making jokes at Tom. Like, they'll come in and they'll make jokes about hitting on Tom instead, because they know it's inappropriate, obviously, to hit on me. So we actually have like the only chat rule we have when you join our stream is don't hit on Tom. So I don't really have to deal with those kind of things too much. I have had a couple instances where I have had some serious stuff happen, but I don't really deal with it as much as some other people do. So I guess it is a little benefit to having the two of us on stream. So don't really deal with it too much.
So go down the outline here a little bit more. With 14, what are some of the best experiences that you've had with streaming in the 14 community? And on the other, the other side of that coin, we talked a little bit about that, but bad experiences, if there's anything else that we haven't kind of covered.
My favorite thing would be housing. When the new wards opened up, there was a huge race to get all of the housing, and everyone move and gain all of the plots, because large and medium plots are extremely hard to get. So we had like 60 or 70 people on voice from our free company, and everyone ended up, we bought our whole ward that we have currently in the Mists. So everyone from our free company owns it. We got a large rate on the waterfront for our free company, and then we also bought like 75% of the subdivision too. So that was a lot of fun. But the negative part that came from it was there were a lot of people on the server. Well, not a lot of people. There was a couple people that were kind of upset that we did that, because they thought that we were stealing housing from people. But our free company's main, like, it'd be just like if a free company was made a based on rating. Our free company is based on housing and gardening and social interaction.
Mhm.
So of course there's a large base of people in our free company that want houses, that do decorating, that get into that. So we did get a little bit of harassment because of it. People were like making posts and shout chat and stuff like that. But it went away in like a couple days.
Mhm.
Most people like know that they can turn to our free company, like if they're looking for a decorator, if they're looking for somebody to do their house and stuff like that. So that's really the only negative thing that we've had to deal with. But it was so fun. The race was fun. Just watching everyone just like enter the zone and just like take off to try and buy houses and stuff like that. It was great. There was only like 1 or 2 plots I think in our board that we didn't end up scoring, but they ended up being really amazing free companies. One of them is our RP free company, so they're always out RPing by our market board and stuff like that, and it's super wonderful to see.
What server did you manage that on? I have to know.
Coral actually.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the big housing rush, trying to get a medium. My hands like shaking as I'm like trying to run around and see what I can get.
Stressful. You're like, it's so exciting. I'm like, really? That's high anxiety.
It's like 4 a.m. I'm like, I need a house.
It's so long to get my house.
Everyone was screaming on voice chat. They're like, I got one. And then people were like, are you going to take this one? They're like, no, just take it.
Like 50 or 60 individual raid bosses, you know, like you like it, it's raiding, and yeah, it's true. Like everyone's trying to get their plot, and that is their raid boss. And I don't know, that must have been amazing just to hear everyone go, oh, we got it. All the nerd screams, you know.
We had like 60 or 70 people on Boys that were going for houses. So like everyone was in they knew like the free company was going for one specific plot, and everybody like stayed away from it. Like everybody worked together. Nobody went. It was a large plot too. You know, large plots are really hard to get a hold of. So the fact that like people worked together so the free company could actually get that one specific house was awesome. Like nobody went and stole it or anything like that. It was a fun time. I'm excited to see that happen again if Ishgard housing comes out.
Yep.
Really curious to see what happens with that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I've mentioned this story before, but I made a random friend through RP and mentioned I was trying to get a large house, and this was years and years and years ago, and they were a little easier to get because people didn't have money. So I'd mentioned it to this person just almost in passing, and we talked a couple times in chat after that, and then just kind of ended up going our separate ways. And then like 3 weeks later, I got a tell from them like, hey, there's a large open at such and such spot. And that's how I got my FC large.
Wow.
Just a random nice person being like, I remember you wanted a large. I can't buy it. Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that nice?
That's so nice.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Yeah, we
remember
were
after
I was saying we were up when the servers launched for that. And it was very different, like trying to get a house with our, at the time, small FC, you know, like we were small-ish and we were trying to snag a medium plot, and we had staked it out and servers went live and we like ran towards it, and it was super fun. And doing that versus like now trying to get a house anywhere on a server that is like cram-packed was such a night and day experience, because we snagged that house and it was easy, versus like me trying to pick up a small house for RP purposes recently, where I'm standing in front of that signpost for 8+ hours, just like, please free me from this hell.
And then somebody walks up 2 minutes before it goes up and they get it.
Oh, I hate that, but it is what it is, you know, like
I mean, I'd love to see a revamp, but it is like, it's funny because sometimes the things that can be really like, I don't know, frustrating to some degree, Rabon Extreme being another one, like things that can be frustrating can be so memorable. And it's like, it's Sonya, like it wasn't your fault. Again, like you were saying, people want those houses, players are entitled to get those houses, but it's more like the system itself that makes it so that other people are frustrated, right? But it's unfortunate that you had to take any of the backlash about that specifically when, you know, you just had a lot of people that wanted to do housing, right?
I mean, our community is like, there's been times where housing's been extremely limited, like now, and some of we'll have multiple free company members out camping a house to buy it and stuff like that. And then somebody will come up. There's been multiple times where like somebody's come up and they've been camping for a while too, and they're like, they finally talk, because most people won't talk. They're just like spam the button, you know. But then finally, you know, they at some point they'll start talking to the people that are standing around the board too, and they'll say they'll explain that they're getting a free company house for the first time or something like that. And there's been multiple times where our whole free company has just walked away and they'll just let them have the house, you know, because it's more like our community is super positive. Like, it's better for us to let it go and just work on something else, you know, than and them to be happy than to take it and then be mad at us because we ended up taking another house. Because I honestly, when the housing is really limited, you'll see like 5+ of our members out camping houses sometimes, and people get really upset about that, but it's just a different part of the game. I mean,
Right.
like, I want to compare it to raiding and stuff like that. Like, our community is just really into housing and stuff like that, and we're not trying to be mean to people. We're doing it all fairly, just like everyone else, but sometimes people get really upset. And like Rick said, it's because of the way that the system is set up. I really wish that they would lower the timer somewhat, like a 12-hour max, because I think right now, from what people have like gathered, it seems like it's somewhere between like a 0 and 22 hour from what most people have picked up. Nobody can really tell, you know, completely, but that's a really long time for somebody to sit there trying to spam a house to get a house.
Right.
And I think that that's what makes it upsetting to most people and why people take it more seriously than it probably needs to be.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see changes to that in the future.
Yeah.
We've been oh, sorry, Fusion. No, I was just gonna say we've been talking about Ishgard housing maybe being instanced or something.
Yeah.
Go ahead. But
Please.
I was gonna say it's really interesting, you know, being around when housing first came out, because I can remember, you know, with my free company, we're like, oh, we're gonna take a couple weeks to run maps and then we'll buy the house, because they were available weeks after, you know, when they first were introduced. And now, you know, I left a medium house on Hyperion when I transferred over to Gilgamesh, and I remember just spending nights on the couch for 4 hours, just, you know, mashing my numpad 0 and whatever, just to menu through to try and get a house. And it would get to the point where, like, I had to stop because my hand was so sore. Like, it's ridiculous now. So
It
that
is
was
ridiculous.
exactly my
Hopefully-
experience.
Right.
Galaxy, did you ever...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to ask Galaxy, did you ever get a house?
Yeah, so well, my first house was when housing first came out. So I had a free company on Adamantois, and I just bought a small house, and it was just me and my friends, like my real life friends, and it was so easy. The hardest part was coming up with the money.
Yeah.
And I moved to Gilgamesh about a year ago with my best friend, and oh my God, it took us so long to find a house, and we have a small house. And now I was starting up a free company on Gilgamesh as well, but we can't get a house because they don't have any of the auto demolition stuff going on at the moment. Yeah. But like, I just remember I was at a house tag teaming with my friend. So I had 10 hours of clicking the button to no avail. Then he had 5 hours. Then I woke up in the middle of the night to swap because he had to. He's a firefighter, right? So he got called out to a fire. So he was like, I really need you to take over. So I woke up and I'm sitting there on my PlayStation in bed, just clicking this button. And then this guy, or it might not have been a guy, I shouldn't say that, this person came across and transferred their house to this plot that we'd been clicking for probably about 17 hours at that point. And then he goes, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. I accidentally transferred my house here.
Oh no.
I was like, wait. You didn't accidentally transfer your house here. There are so many buttons to click. You did it on purpose, and then they transferred their house back. And it was an empty plot again, and the timer starts again.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It was horrible. So I gave
that's
up.
your bad experience. What's your good experience?
My not
necessarily with housing.
Yeah.
With streaming Final Fantasy.
Yeah. And
we knew there would be tangents. We said we'd go off on tangents. This is now a housing episode.
I'm sorry.
oh no, it's fine.
Oh, I don't know. Like, the best experiences is everything else.
Right.
Like I like teaching trade. I've liked doing blind runs of things. I think teaching is what I really, really like to do. I've had to take a back seat on that a little while, just IRL stuff. I'm currently buying a house in real life. So speaking of houses, so I haven't been able to do that as much, but I'm really keen to get back into that, because just teaching people and showing people that everyone can raid,
right,
if they want to.
Yeah.
They don't have to if they don't want to, but there's a huge section of the community that feels like they're not good enough, or because they're not, like, I don't know, they're not Xeno, they're not Violent Destruction, they're not Zeph, like they can't do it. Like, that's not true.
I feel that way.
I started Savage raiding literally with the first tier of Eden. And that was my first time as White Mage. And then I went and cleared T, and then I blind progged the second tier. It's like, you can do it. It's you put the time into it. I'm not gonna lie, like, I spent a lot of hours doing it, but that's how you learn.
Yeah, I know. For me, especially when it comes to like Savage, there's definitely that kind of little, like, there's like an anxiety hurdle that you kind of have to get over. But then once you get over it, you're like, oh, like, whatever. Like, once you get into that understanding that, like, it's gonna take time and you're gonna fail, but eventually you'll get it done. Like, that's the hardest part, is to just get in and kind of do it.
Raiding is dying until you win.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, raiding is dying until you win. We just that's what we always say whenever we're doing any kind of raids. Like, we go until we die, and then and one time we won't die.
Pretty much. Like, my clear of T wasn't even expected to be a clear. Like, we saw in Rage like twice, and then we're like, oh, let's practice this part again, and then it was the clear by a long shot.
Wow.
And we're like,
nice.
Okay,
and I had a great feeling.
I got up at 3 a.m. It was 4 a.m. and we cleared it. I was like, cool, I'm going back to bed.
Exactly.
Yeah, Galaxy, I feel you on that. I think mentoring in like a lot of different ways in the game, like, although obviously the official mentorship system, people have a lot of thoughts and feelings about, like, but the fact that like 14 can almost be like, this is going to sound so silly, but it goes back to 11 too, right? Like a generational community in a sorts, where like people learn and progress things, or like, pursue certain things that they love, and then can pass that information on to other players and help them get into it. And like you were saying, even if you're brand new getting into it, like, I think some of my favorite memories have both been times where like I pushed myself to do something new. Like, the first time that I ever cleared any kind of endgame content was Titan Extreme, and I was doing it in Heavensward, and this was after I had come over from WoW and everything, and I was so apprehensive, but like, I loved the game so much and I loved the content so much that I wanted to do those hard challenges because I really felt like it would mean something to me in the world. And so like, I made these beautiful new friends that I had met who still like moderate and are still a part of the community. And my husband and I went in to do Titan X, and everybody's like, why are you trying to do this synced? Why are you doing this at minimum eye level? And I was like, because I don't have gear that's better than minimum eye level. And also because I want to clear it the way it's supposed to be cleared. And we started with Titan out of all of them, which is such a train wreck if you've never done, endgame mechanics. Sure. And I remember we sat there for 8+ hours one day just trying to get cues and then running this thing. And it felt like ultimate to me because I could not comprehend what was happening on the screen. Like, we had this friend who kept saying like, Rook, you have to wait for the first bombs to go and then you'll move. And I was like, And in my head I was going, where are the bombs? I don't even see the bombs. I don't even see them when they go off, but you just keep telling me they're going off and I'm gonna assume they are. And then I died. So something's happening.
Smile and wave.
Yeah. But it's amazing, like, starting there and then like over time and patience and with the help of a lot of people, and then eventually getting to the point where you can help people. Like, I think for me, that's been one of the greatest happinesses of 14 and streaming it, right? To be able to look back and then say to other players that come in like, hey, don't beat yourself up. Like, we've all been there. I literally could not even see the bombs on Titan, and now I could do them in my sleep. Like, you can do this, trust me. And there are people here who will help you. And like, the best parts of our community, I think, really, really, really shine. And there are still like troublesome areas, and I've had a lot of bad experiences in raiding and things like that too, but it's holding on to that and kind of giving yourself the patience and finding the right people to support you. And it's been amazing getting to meet so many people in the 14 community, and I'm so grateful, honestly, for streaming to have even come into contact with a fraction of them, right? let alone all of you here on the podcast. Like it's amazing.
I guess for me, because I'm a lady, I can talk about this too.
You can.
I don't do a whole lot of like streaming like the rest of these ladies. I've started to try to more recently, but because of my schedule, I'm doing it in the middle of the night, and some people are around, and a lot of people aren't. Either way, I think the most streaming that I do is when expansions drop. Because we do our like long ass 24-hour streams in shifts, which are always really fun. And you always get the people who are coming in who, for whatever reason, can't get into the expansion those first couple of days, and they're really excited, and it's really fun to talk to them. So that's generally my favorite part of streaming 14. I think my favorite part of streaming that I've done is the games that actually let people in the chat decide what's going to happen. I think the example I gave last week was Vermintide. Because, oh my gosh, people are both very mean and very nice. Because they'll give you these terrible bosses, but then they're like, you know what? I beat you up a whole lot. Here's a potion. It's like, oh, thank you.
We did do once, and I would still love to do like a big thing of this, a like equivalent, but with 14, where like viewers could set modifiers for different content that we were doing. And like one of them was that we did a no UI or veil run, which was the best hot disaster. We did like first person runs of dungeons, naked runs of dungeons, all kinds of stuff.
So you're basically taking that roulette wheel from FanFest and just giving it to the chat.
Yeah, like I love things like Vermintide. I do love that you can like have that interaction, and you can definitely also set it up in 14. It's just more like on you to do it, right? Like as opposed to other people. Yeah.
That's cute. That's clever. And dangerous, so dangerous.
Person no UI runs are hilarious.
Really
that was like E1S, and it was just
Can
you imagine trying to do that on Dancer?
Oh,
like, you know where the buttons are, but you don't know what's next. You don't know.
That would be terrible.
Right? You have no idea exactly what's proc.
Any of the proc classes, you wouldn't be able to.
It'd be rough.
I'm just imagining it. Just as a caster, I'm like, so you mean to tell me I have to be looking at them the entire time? Like, you know, like for melee, you can kind of turn sideways, you know, but for caster, like, good luck, right? And then you want to,
or like Ninja, right? It's like, when did they add a bunny hat to the game? No, he's just being terrible at his thing. It's
you couldn't do it.
That's not a hat. That's
you could with enough training, but like, man, I don't think I could do it off of the main job that I play. Definitely not.
Yeah, it's spicy. It's fun. It's spicy.
Yeah.
Zen, I did love that you brought up to the release day, like release anything, right? Like whether you're streaming release day or you're like just playing release day on your own. I definitely think at MMOs there's like a special excitement to whether it's new content, new patch, new expansion, like new X-Pack. Although we get a lot of new stuff, it's not always even just my favorite because of the new stuff. It's my favorite because like everybody comes together again and everybody is like touching base and having this like new adventure and this new journey. And that's so fun.
Seeing all the new worlds, all the new zones, that's always my favorite part. Just like getting into a place you've never seen before and you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah. You're straight with you. Yeah.
I still get goosebumps thinking back to the Amarant reveal. Like I don't think it's gonna take something huge to top that for me, I think, with zones and stuff in the game.
Yeah, that one was pretty amazing. When I'm trying to think about like, go ahead.
My least favorite part of streaming is, and this is gonna pull it back around to the topic, having to get ready for a stream.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good one. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Because I'm gonna throw you guys under the bus a little. Dudes can roll out of bed and get on camera, and and they're nobody's gonna say anything as long as maybe they like did like this and smooth down their hair, right? Headphones smooth down their hair. They don't even have to.
There's a reason I cut this so short, so I don't have to do anything.
Yeah. If I haven't had it happen very often. Our audience for Aetheryte Radio is very kind, but in the past, we have had people come on and make comments like, "Oh, look at that dog," right? And it's like, sorry, I didn't put makeup on today.
What? There has been and I'm not gonna say what was said, but there is a reason you'll notice we don't have the chat on screen for when we do these shows. We had Susan Calloway on one episode, and we had a couple of those people that just like to come in and troll, and they were just throwing out some stuff about her, and it's like, all right, well now we have to go back. Obviously we're editing that out. We don't want that displayed anywhere on the video. But after that, we're just not gonna have stream up anymore, because even if you come in and block stuff, it's it's still gonna pop up there for that quick second. And you know what, like, everybody in the chat, like today, everybody's awesome, but and it's what we say about the community, right? The majority are just really awesome people, but every so often you run into like that one person that is just not really nice, and so that one bad egg can ruin something for everybody, right? And so that's we don't have chat on the stream because of that one particular episode. It was just it's terrible.
So there are definitely days where I get up and I feel fine and I don't care what anybody has to say. I'll throw on my glasses, I probably brush my hair, whatever. But usually I'm gonna say probably the majority of women streamers go through some sort of getting ready, a little bit of makeup, something, maybe wear a nice shirt, who knows, whatever is part of your routine. But I'm pretty sure like 98% of women streamers probably have some kind of routine before they feel comfortable getting on camera, because either it's just how they want to present themselves, or they're afraid of some jerk coming in and being like, oof.
And I mean, honestly, it's a lose-lose, because there seems to be just more of a tendency for people to view like a female broadcaster, like her physical appearance, is something that they feel entitled to comment on. And like the terrible things that you heard, Zed. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you have makeup on or not. Like, I tell people I wear makeup a lot of times for stream because, one, I have two enormous lights directed at my face. And if I don't have makeup on, it's not just like me without makeup. It's like, who is that ghoul in that room? And why does she look like she's dying? And it's like, that's something so that I can be clearer, I can be crisper, you can see my features more as I like react. And makeup does that as well. Like, it enhances a lot of that. But I get people who come in who are like, on days where, I mean, we did a few no makeup streams. We have people come in who are like, why do you look so ugly today? And you're like, well, thanks, man.
Great word choice.
You look tired. And then there's the flip side too, like, too much makeup. Like, what's up with all of that? Whatever. It's like, and I like this whatever, so screw off.
And I've noticed, like, Final Fantasy specific, this is kind of weird. This is like a weird thing to comment on, but there are some female broadcasters, and like, I adore all of them, who have, kind of taken to, I think, getting into the raid scene. And like, as part of kind of the energy and stuff, like, they won't wear a lot of makeup and things like that. And they're just kind of chilling and they're just doing their thing. And I'm like, I love watching that. And then I'll have people that'll come over from their communities and say to me, like, do you ever not wear makeup like X? Because X is more real than you. But because you have makeup on, I feel like you're fake. And I'm like, we're both humans. Girl does not wear makeup today. She busy. She progging. Like, what? Like, I put makeup on because of the aforementioned lights today. Like, literally, all that's separating us is a wet wipe. Like, if I wiped my face off, there it is. It's like, it's very weird. I saw in chat somebody mentioned too. We had somebody last week that I actually just cackled at. I thought it was so hilarious. Who came in and said the only thing that they walked in and they said, "You are ugly, and I hate your stream. But if you want internet boyfriend, DM me."
No.
I mean, shoot your shot, but that is not the shot to shoot.
There's this mindset amongst certain, I'm gonna say males, sorry, that
you're not wrong.
Breaking down a woman is the way to get her to like you.
Negative.
Don't. What's wrong with you? No. And the really sad part is sometimes this works on really insecure girls who don't know better, and it's I wish that people wouldn't do that. It just makes it worse.
It's
I didn't even think about the getting ready thing.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
No. Go.
Oh no, I was just saying, we were talking about WoW and their recent controversies, plural. And reading some of the things that some of those people were saying to some of those women, it was exactly that. It was negging until you broke them down. And it's like, what? I don't understand. I just wish that I don't know.
What
one of those things that I've never experienced.
In somebody's head to think that that's okay. Just leave this poor person alone.
Yeah.
Screw off. No.
It's
What were
the
you gonna
internet.
say, Galaxy?
Oh, I was just gonna say I didn't even like think of this like getting ready as a thing that is a female thing. Like, but now that I think about it, I take more time to get ready for stream than I do for work. I will go to work without makeup on. I won't stream without makeup on. So I woke up at 4 a.m. today so I could do my makeup before we started.
Sorry.
So like I didn't even think of that. And then the only times that I have streamed without makeup, I've actually turned my cam off, and they were when I was progging tea. It was 3 a.m.
It extends a little bit into marketing, I think, too, right? To an extent.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I find myself turning my camera off too, or I feel like I feel like I have to apologize the whole time that I look like shit on stream, for lesser words. Like I'm sorry that I look tired today. I'm sorry that I'm not wearing makeup. I'm sorry I look like a troll. And everyone's always really nice. They're always like, "Oh, don't worry about it." And I'm like, I get it, because like I've gone to other streamers' streams where they're not wearing makeup and they're doing the same thing. They're apologizing the whole time that they look like poop or something like that. And I'm sitting there watching them and I'm like, girl, you're beautiful. Like, don't even like feel that way. Like, there's no reason to feel that way. But like on the other side, like you still feel the urge to either shut your camera off or apologize, and it does kind of suck. Like,
it's not just about makeup though, if you think about it. Like a lot of male streamers, and it doesn't have to be Final Fantasy, it can be like any game. They can get angry, they can have a concentration phase, they can not say anything, not chat, not interact with their chat at all, and they don't get shit for it.
Yeah.
But if I don't, sometimes it has been like if I don't answer something in chat, the person will say, "Oh, the streamer didn't respond." Like, and then they'll redo it. They'll be like, "Oh, she doesn't like me, so I'm just gonna go now."
I was literally about to say, she doesn't like me.
Bubbly.
She is ignoring me. She doesn't care about me. That I hear that all the time, and it's like
it always happens if I'm like in tea or something. It's like, dude, this is hard. Like, it's not easy, and I'm already apologizing for how grumpy I look, which is just my focus face. Like, I have strong eyebrows, so when I frown, like.
Yeah, I mean, there's that weird expectation that like you're there for them to cater to their needs, and you're there for you.
Right.
It's
there for them instead of there with them. Because with males, I've been in I watch a lot of streamers. I mean, from time to time, and it's like, oh yeah, we're just bros, we're just hanging out, and you're not allowed really to have that same interaction. It's more of a, I'm here to present for you. And it's one of those interesting dichotomies. And we were talking about it during People of Color in streaming with B, and she was saying that she couldn't like be what she wanted to be at the time. Like she couldn't play the music because she had to do what they're expecting of her. And I'm sure she would say just the same as well. Like she doesn't go on without makeup. It's just one of those checklists that you have to go through that we don't have to go through.
Yeah, and like that carries over. I can't stop thinking, Sonya, about you talking about seeing that difference between how people address Tom and how people address you.
I was actually just gonna say something about that too.
Go ahead.
I noticed because sometimes we'll do solo streams and it's just one of the other two of us, but I can definitely tell a difference in the way that people interact with Tom. Tom is like what Galaxy said. He's literally doesn't say much. He's very straight-faced. He's very blunt and dry with his responses when he's playing. And feel like and people are fine with it. But when I am solo on stream, there's like, if I have like a bad day or I'm just kind of feeling like or some kind of quiet, people are constantly asking me what's wrong, you know, and like or asking why I'm not so upbeat, why I'm not bubbly, why I'm not laughing as much or something like that. And I can definitely tell a huge difference in like when we're both solo streaming, like the way that the interactions are. Like I'm definitely held to a different standard than he is. And it feels like pressured sometimes. I would say in like the last like 6 months we've actually taken some time off, because instead of getting on stream and like feeling like I should just to stream for the sake of streaming so I don't miss a day, instead of like me coming on stream and just kind of being and kind of like playing my game and doing my thing, you know, like I would if I wasn't streaming, that I just take the day off instead of coming to stream like that and not being able to like fake being bubbly and put my makeup on and pretend everything's okay and stuff kind of like that. Whereas Tom can just show up and just do that himself every time he solo streams. It is definitely rough sometimes, for sure.
Yeah. But there's like an emotional, like that emotional labor that's almost put on female streamers or you know, women who broadcast. And I've noticed it carry over into so many different things. Like I had to close my DMs on Discord, and this has been something that like I held out on it for so long. I fought for it, and like all of my moderators were saying like, Rook, you've got to just close them, you've got to just close them. And I was like, I really don't want to cut myself off to people. But it got to the point where like the communications could be anything from like a completely benign message every like hour that was just sent to me constantly, like wanting me to respond. Why aren't you responding to me? Did you see the thing that I posted for you? Did you see it? Why aren't you responding to me? To like very threatening, very terrifying things that would show up in my DMs. And like that full range of stuff didn't seem to be happening to my male moderators or to even male broadcasters that I know. But like for me, it was something that I had to wade through every single day. And when I would, you know, initially feel bad and I'd like open my DMs up to somebody who was like pestering my moderators saying like, I have to talk to Rook, I have to talk to Rook, please. And then I'd open it, I would get weird foot fetish stuff, or I'd get a weird, like this weird stuff that would just show up in my DM box. And I was like, buddy, I opened this because I thought maybe you really needed somebody, but this is what happened. And here we are. And now my DMs are shut down forever. Like, and that's because I literally could not expend the emotional labor for it anymore. And the same goes for so many other spaces, even in game. Like when I was in that raid with all the guys, or I'm in a raid with guys, it's unbelievable to me how I will take a lot of times the brunt of most of the criticism, the like, you know, immediately like it's got to be something here or, you know, whatever. And they will like rip each other a new one, and the whole like, you know, it'll like devolve in a matter of seconds. And then I get DMs from every member of the group being like, my feelings were hurt by so-and-so. And I'm like,
tell them. Why are you telling me?
Like, why am I now the one that has to be the feelings receiver?
Remember when you blamed that mechanic on me that you fucked up? Yeah, my feelings were hurt too.
Because you become raid mom.
Yeah,
that's how it is. You immediately become raid mom.
I actually even get told that in my static. I'll like jump into Discord and one of my tanks is like, hey, raid mom. I'm like,
and it's like part of me is happy. I mean, like, I'm sure probably for you too, because we are passionate about helping people, right? Like part of me is happy to be somebody that can be there. But Sonya, like you were saying, we can't always be 100% bubbly, happy, constantly listening. And like, there's a huge bravery and vulnerability that goes into those streams where sometimes you do turn that cam on and you're like, look, guys, it's not a great day. And I feel really weird. Yeah, like I feel like it's 2020.
It's 2020.
Right like, and you do feel like you have to apologize all the time, or like you're failing somehow, or you're letting people down somehow, or like you just aren't worth being there because you're not doing it. And yeah. I really don't think that as many male broadcasters some do, but like I don't necessarily think that as many of them have to deal with it to the extent that a lot of us do, be it in game or on stream, right?
Right.
Yeah, you know, I definitely doesn't deal with it as much as I do. Like it's constant. Like I mean, the last couple messages I've got are always to me you know, about something somebody needs or something somebody, I mean, I get it. Like, I'm probably like more easier to approach based on our personalities on stream and stuff like that. But sometimes, like, there's certain things that could have gone to Tom, but for some reason always end up coming to me still. So, because again, the stream mom thing, like, you know, or raid mom thing, like, people just kind of like do that instead. Like, Tom's like, I wish they would message me once in a while. I can answer things too, but everyone always comes to me.
Well,
And with
he
the
feels
weird
left
stuff too,
out.
I have gotten those messages too. Like, you're like, it's so cringy.
Oh,
But I haven't had to deal with it as much as some of you guys have. So, or I don't know how many of you guys have, but some of my friends have that I've heard of. So I feel a little bit blessed to not have to deal with it as much. So,
question really quick for all of you guys. Well, all of you girls. Do you have another, if you're in a raid group, do you have another girl in that raid group also?
I do, yeah.
I do now.
Now
Yes,
I do.
okay.
So my whole
I
bunch
do
of
as well.
raiding.
Oh, really?
I don't. I'm actually the only girl on the team.
I feel like it's an interesting thing to have at least 2 women in a raid group, because first of all, if you're, especially if you're not in charge of that raid group, the people in charge very likely might be extra hypercritical, and then they also kind of want to keep you as the token. Like, we let one girl in because girls are okay, they can do stuff all right, but I really enjoy having a second woman in the raid group who I feel is also a badass, and like just it's not a competition at all. I feel like it's a prime situation where, especially in younger groups of people, you want to guys are going to want to pit those girls against each other. So I really enjoy being in a situation with this other woman where we are butts and nobody in the raid group is taking sides at any point, being like, you know what, you're the cooler girl. No, nobody gives a crap about that. But I've been in situations like that.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But you guys, no?
I've dealt with that in WoW. Yeah, for sure. Like, people would make fun of other girls because they would sound like crabby or dry, kind of like, you know, with their stuff, and people would make fun of them, or they would literally call them the bitch of the group kind of thing and stuff like that, and compare other girls to other girls. And I'm like, there's other guys in the team that are acting like jerks, and then some are nice. Why do we get pointed out why are we getting compared to each other when there's other people that do the same thing that aren't female? So I have seen it. I haven't seen it in Final Fantasy, but I've seen it in WoW for sure.
Yeah,
I haven't experienced it. I think like my group, when it was all males except for me, was perfect, and we have another female, it's still perfect. Like, I happen to have a really good team. So
that's good.
None of them are judgmental. Anyone who was judgmental, they're not part of the team anymore. So it's not, you know, I would say that our group has had pretty good experiences. I don't feel like I've ever been blamed for things that weren't my fault, other than with one of our previous healers who we then got rid of. So, like, yeah, I would say my group, I've been lucky. I can definitely see it happening because that did happen to me in my raid group on Destiny. I would get blamed for anything and everything. So, like, I would have a role that I would always do, and then they changed it up. And one of the other people who played the same class as I did decided to use the same skill set that I did. And then they're like, why do we have 2 warlocks using this skill set? And I was like, you mean the skill set that I have been using specifically for this raid, for this purpose, and you didn't tell me that you changed? So, like, yeah, I have experienced it, just not in Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I kind of got like a little like panicked over it in WoW and had some like bad experiences, so I didn't really want to raid when I came over to Final Fantasy. I just really wanted to play casual, but we actually just started raiding like a month ago. But we only are raiding with our mod team, and it ends up being like all guys, but like they're super respectful and everybody has fun. I don't feel like I'm treated any differently on it, and it's more comfortable for me to be in that setting with all of my moderators than to just join like a random team, you know, that I applied for and stuff. So maybe in the future I'll feel more comfortable, but I've had, like I said, bad experiences. So where I'm at right now is super comfy.
Yeah, it definitely makes a huge difference having people that like you trust and you know, and that like respect you around you when you're doing stuff like that. And I mean, even if people are just getting into it for the first time, going in with people that you know are going to be patient or understanding or just, you know, not cause problems. And of course, like in those tense environments, sometimes things can come out or people can, you know, sort of change in some way because there is a lot on the line in a sense, you know, with like rating and progging it, I guess to some degree. For me, I'm like, it's fine, guys. It's a game. Like, we don't have to all lose our minds over this. Like, it's okay.
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
It's not a game. But I'm trying to think, like, right now my group has been, I mean, pretty good. Like, and in the past, like I said, that kind of like emotional labor thing, or like automatically being raid mom, or automatically being the one that has to like constantly negotiate mediations, or constantly sort out every single tiny bickering thing. Like that has happened. And I guess weirdly too, I've had sometimes, and I've seen this. I'm curious if anybody else has seen this in 14 or MMOs, right? Just in general, right? It seems like I do sometimes encounter like female players that, oh my gosh, I love and respect and adore. But then I'll notice that there like are people around them, and they don't always have to be men. Like sometimes sometimes it is another woman, but like there can be this tendency to like find those like women in the community that do, like we were saying earlier, maybe have like a lack of confidence or self-esteem, or that might be kind of stuck at home, or might be sort of dealing with a lot of things. And then to like, this is going to sound really strange, but bear with me, to like almost try to like make them their pet in a sense in game, where like they feel like they have some kind of like ownership over them, and like they have some sort of right to like dictate what they're doing or who they're playing with or how, like, and I've raided with women before that have like you know, been in situations like this where like I sit there and I watch the way this other person treats them, and I'm like, why do you, what? You just let them say that? Like, and I'll hop in and I'm like, nah. What? Like, hold up. What did you just say? But like, I know so many people in the community even that have struggled with that, or like really had difficulties finding ways to set their own boundaries because maybe they're sort of, you know, suffering, and there will be this like energy to like pursue them or find them, and it's this possessiveness, like Chad is saying. Yeah. And I'm always just like, it always unnerves me to some degree, because I feel really lucky to be in a place right now myself where like I feel confident and happy in, you know, where I am in the online space. But like I know like a younger me a lot of times may have struggled with that. And even on chat or in chat, sometimes I'll get people who assume that because you are like a female broadcaster or something, that like they can sort of dictate how you play or do things. And it just always, like, it's just that little bit of it. Like, if you see it happening, if anybody sees it happening, please like help stop it, because it's so uncomfortable, and like lift those people up that need that encouragement. But like, I don't know if anybody else has witnessed this or if it's just me.
No, definitely have. It happened to me.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not a pushover. Not saying that all of the girls, it can happen to guys too. I'm not saying necessarily that they are pushovers. I guess that's more of me trying to be confident in me. But like, it was like there was this guy who was in a raid team who I helped teach Leviathan Savage, from Eden Leviathan. And like at first everything was fine. He wanted more help, but then I would like be streaming my re-clears every week with the group that I did it with at the time. And then he would DM me saying that he's jealous that I'm getting the clears and I'm doing this, and that he's not playing with me, and that I don't wait for him. I was like, I've never waited for you. I helped you this one time get a clear. And like he would just, he would like try to take over my stream. He would try to take over who I was talking to and trying to teach. And in the end, I was just like, I'm not dealing with this. Like, I was nice. I kind of was just like pushing it to the side for a bit. But like, when I finally like put my foot down, I would then get DMs saying that I really hurt him, that, you know, that how I acted wasn't fair and things like that. And it's just like, I I was just playing the game. I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
like I've definitely experienced it.
I've had
but
stuff
not
happen like that to me too.
too much.
It's definitely one of those you gave them a breadcrumb and they were like, "Where's the sandwich?"
Yeah.
Like they suddenly expected that they got all of your attention because you hung out with them one time. And I've also experienced that. I've also experienced I didn't really think about it, but I experienced what Brooke was describing with high energy lady trying to be like, "Oh, we're friends. You're just gonna do with everything I say now, right?" And I guess they thought that I was gonna do it, and that ain't me. That ain't me, brah. So so then they're not my friend anymore because I think I probably would have still tried to be friends with this person, but as soon as they were like, "Oh, you're not my puppet," no, they completely flip flopped, and this is kind of a little bit what I was talking about with women being in a situation where you come to a head with another lady. And I think it goes beyond video games as well. It's in everyday life. It's everywhere. Life, society, everything tries to pit ladies against ladies. And I'm liking the place where I am, where I'm not having that issue so much. And it sounds like you guys are in the same place too. So yay for that.
Yay. Yay. I mean that.
You know, I can't speak from experience being the target of any of this, but you know, my history of MMOs has always been raiding, always been as close to world first as my schedule can get me to. You know, I got to it in WildStar, rip WildStar, but you know, there were just so many times where I would get into a guild where I'm just bouncing around guilds trying to find one. And you have this La Reveal Magnifico. You know, you're going through like, okay, you're a good player. Okay, yeah, we'll let you into, you know, officer chat or something. You get elevated. And then you find this hive of like, well, and I heard it myself. Well, that's my rogue. What? Well, she's not very good, so I try and help her, and also, and you know, they start taking conversations to places where they think it's okay to go to. It's like, that's not, isn't this is a video game. That's what are you talking about, right? And it's just insanity to know that is very prevalent. Hopefully, you know, and we're talking about it being less prevalent in 14, but we just saw so many people unmasked for doing that. You know, in other communities. So, you know, I did have a question about you all and streaming, especially. Are there any like phrases or topics that you just will not touch because you think, if I say this, if I do this, someone's going to take it, and then that's where chat's going to go? You know, kind of like these things that you try not to even start the conversation on. Do you find yourself having to worry about those sort of things? Or, you know, it could be that your community is good enough not to.
Yeah, yes.
Right, of course.
I mean, there have been things. This is gonna sound so goofy, and I don't seem to care. I don't care about it as much anymore. But when I first started streaming, I was actually really, really conscious about not putting my characters in revealing outfits. I don't know if anybody else has done this, because the few times that I would put like a character in something skimpy, I would have a slew of comments in the chat like, "Ooh, like you're wearing, like." I'd get on that and I'd be like, "That is my avatar." Or, you know, people be like, "I like watching that butt go," and I'm like, "Me too. I'm very pansexual, but we don't have to talk about it here." Like, I know, like we can talk about it, but like in a liberating sense, not in like a please stop making weird comments in the chat. Like, eventually I was just like, screw it, the 2B bottoms exist and I'm a Vieira, so I just have been living my truth ever since. But I mean, there definitely are things, or I'll note that like if I make a joke that is maybe a little bit
risque or something,
risque or family adjacent, the chat will go 1 to 100 like that. Like it'll go from just like, you know, oh yeah, this funny little goofy thing that was said, to people saying stuff in chat that is like straight up explicit, and I'll be sitting there like, don't Like somebody will be like, I got auto-modded, and I'm like, yes, because what you wrote was like an R-rated fanfic snippet that just got caught. Like it's very weird. And even like when I say something joking, which is not totally joking, but it's joking adjacent, like with Shiva, for example, like step on me, Shiva, because I do love when Shiva steps on me.
Right.
It's like suddenly the chat will sometimes take that and it'll be like, ha ha ha, step on me. And then again, the fanfic that's R-rated gets put in the chat. I'm like, you wouldn't do this anywhere else. Like, what is happening?
Right.
The thing is, though, that they would. As soon as you open up the floodgates just a little bit, they're like, ooh, I can talk about terrible things now you don't actually want to hear about.
Yeah. And like sometimes it is just fun, but sometimes it like there are moments where I can tell. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely one thing that I for a long time didn't want to talk about. And it was anyone coming in with comments like titty streamer, or did you see that so and so did this today in the community, or I'm glad you're not a titty streamer and stuff like that. And like for a long time we would just like delete it or ban the person, or we just wouldn't talk about it. But then it got to a point where like I just got tired of having those comments in general where people would come in and say things like that, like, I'm glad that you don't have your tits out on stream kind of thing, you know, like. And I'd be like, you know what, like, what does it matter? Like, we all have boobs. If so and so wants to wear that, then more power to her. And I, after saying that for a long time, when people would come in with these comments, it started to like go away, honestly, because I think people started to get the feel of how I felt about it. I mean, it happens once in a while, but like for the most part, after me like saying it, you know, a few times, it just hasn't, I haven't had to listen to it. But for a long time, it was something we definitely would try to avoid talking about in stream, because it would bring up heated things. People, everybody has their opinion on it, and everybody wants to use Twitch chat for it. So, because that's a place. I'm playing Final Fantasy. Why not talk about it here, guys? You know, so it's probably the only thing I think that I've really not wanted to speak on in the past, but.
It's always
thing for me. It's okay. Go.
I was gonna say it's always weird for me watching streams with when a woman is present. Like, so there's a retro games chain in Seattle. I know I've talked about this at least off stream before with some of you guys, but every so often, like, he'll have his wife or a female employee or something help it out, and there's always people coming in like, oh, who's the girl? Like, do they not realize how much of a creep they sound like? Like, it's, why would you? I don't understand it. It's so weird to me. Like,
it's just another person.
Yeah. It's
sometimes
I don't know.
Tom will do a solo stream and new people will come in, and then they like, I'm on stream the next day and they do the same thing. They're like, oh, who's this girl? And I'm like, well, I've always been here. I'm his wife.
Hello.
Yeah.
I think for me then, I guess I kind of have a question too along those lines. It's like, where is the line drawn between like, okay, somebody's just like something like that, but then like, you know, when do you decide, okay, that's it, and you just ban them or whatever? Like, because it's probably, there's probably
common sense.
Yeah,
like,
I don't
use your common sense. You, if you would not walk up to a stranger and say this thing, don't say this thing.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, for us in particular, when that happens, like, we'll answer honestly and blunt and be like, I'm his wife. We're a couple streamer. We're here together all the time. Yesterday was solo streaming. If people respond with something respectful, like they understood, and that, like, obviously the way we were responding wasn't laughing or finding anything funny of what they said, then it's okay. Like, we'll let it slide and, you know, watch how they interact past that. But there have been times where people have like cracked jokes like, oh, well, I guess I'm just gonna leave then, kind of thing, you know. And like, we're just like, okay, bye, ban, you know, like, we'll help you out the door, you know, kind of. But luckily most people, I think, in our community, or people that have like ventured to our community, are pretty respectful when we answer honestly, and we're not like, you know, rude back, or we're not like finding it funny what they said, because I think a lot of people do it to like think that they're going to be funny and make a joke, and then when you respond appropriately, they sometimes switch the way that they're talking to you a little bit. So
it's kind of like them, you know, putting out a flyer like, can I say this here? Can I get away with this?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
It's like how we were just saying too. I mean, as soon as, you know, a certain kind of narrative gets even hinted at, people are just going, you know, on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably feel guilty at leading my community into some of those jokes, and like there have been times where like I'm kidding around, and then it does go too far, and I'm like I won't even read what somebody says in chat because it definitely was too far, you know, like so sometimes we'll delete those, but yeah, I can see how it can easily get just like drifted into a further conversation that was never meant to be.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes it does. And I think like common sense, it's funny because I think when I started streaming, the idea of like, at least then in regards to like, you know, how do you tell if you should ban somebody, right? Initially, I thought, oh, this will be a really no-brainer common sense thing. Like, I will know when to ban them. And then when I got more and more into, especially a stream that is like community driven, that common sense sometimes is like, I have no idea, you know, and you sit there and it's a decision and it's something that you have to do or sort of evaluate. And I think over time, I have come to better identify like somebody who is trolling, harassing, like actually really trying to cause problems, who, you know, does seem to have some sort of malicious intent or have some sort of, you know, trackable pattern of doing weird things or like upsetting things to other members versus somebody who might be really trying to engage and really trying to connect with the community, but who might be socially awkward. Or, you know, we have a lot of fam that have Asperger's and things too. So like I've had a lot of really frank conversations with people about like, how can we all communicate better? And like, how can we all like negotiate the space better? And sometimes there are people as well who, Sonya, like you were saying, you just need to set the tone for them. And then when they eventually pick up on that tone or that thing that you're not going to talk about or that thing, like they can get on board, but it may be rocky, right?
Yeah.
So like in those cases, I've got an amazing moderation team. I'll just be straight up honest. And I will usually say, here's everything we know. And we like keep track of a lot of stuff and we are always communicating. And I'll ask everybody, how does everyone feel about this? Because it's a lot of different diverse opinions and perspectives. And then we'll all kind of like roundtable about it. And if we do agree, like, yes, at this point, we feel like this person has been like proven that they are a negative impact on the community, then we will take, you know, appropriate action and we keep track of strikes and stuff, you know, or like little things. And if we feel like it's somebody where we're like, you know what, I think they really are trying, they just may need a little more help, we'll try to like work with them through it. Usually in the chat, it's pretty easy. Somebody comes in as like show bubes, you're like ban. Like,
right.
You know, but there are these more gray areas, especially building or FC running or stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. There's always the issue of text also. Somebody could say something and be joking. Somebody could say something and be serious. And sometimes those same words are
sarcasm and stuff doesn't always come through with text. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much how our mod team is too. Like we talk about things and figure out whether or not it was appropriate, inappropriate. If somebody has to go, if somebody can stay, if they just need more, you know, maybe we need more time to understand who they are and, you know, kind of thing. So there was a case where like somebody was super, like they were venturing through all of the streamers communities within our community and they would come off as a know-it-all kind of, because I think they lived in a different country and they were more brash in the way that they would explain things. And a lot of people took it offensively. And I was like, I think that he doesn't mean any harm. He's just trying to be helpful. He just comes off saying things a little more brash and blunt and not so sweet. And there's no harm by it. But a lot of people were like super offended by like him just like being blunt about things and stuff like that. And honestly, in time of us responding to him, like even when you come into our stream and try and act like a know-it-all, or he'd be really brash or blunt with some of the stuff you'd say in stream, the way we responded to him helped mold him and get him used to our community. So we didn't have to ban him because I mean, this was like a year ago and he's still around now. So, you know, it just took time of reading people and understanding how other people are interacting with each other in order for him to like, I guess, mold to that and see how the community was. Maybe he came from a community that was like that before, but maybe our community helped him to see how to act better, which could have helped other people who interacted with him, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the nice things too. I mean, you know, going back to the stream I was talking about, it's always, you know, you get the people like, oh, who's that babe or whatever, but then you have everybody else in the chat's like, hey, don't be a creep. You know, like that community kind of helps to police itself and keep itself in check in a way. Especially when you have, you know, these trolls or these people that maybe don't quite know that what they're saying isn't the best thing to say or something like that.
Streaming, teaching one idiot at a time not to be socially awkward.
Right.
I mean, we all have, right? I think many of us who play video games have our own awkwardness, and it's
For
just
sure.
about like figuring out how to all be awkward together in a way that, like, that is good for everyone, you know?
Mhm.
Galaxy, did you have something you wanted to say earlier? Was there something that you wanted to add?
Oh yeah, it was about like what we don't want to talk about on stream. I think when I first started streaming, I felt awkward. I didn't want to mention that I had a boyfriend. I didn't want to like, you know, we had to change all the mic settings to make sure he couldn't be heard in the background. Or if like he came and passed me a drink, people would be like, who just passed you a drink? Like, so I didn't really want to like bring anything about that up. I don't know why. I just kind of felt like it was something that as a girl streamer you couldn't do because they wouldn't want to watch because all of a sudden you're not obtainable. But I got way over that. So like now I'm always like, oh, Maddie do this, Maddie do that, and like he's now known as like the floating arm because he'll bring me food and things like that. Or the chat will hear him like while he's playing games in the other room. They're like, oh, he must have got a good kill in Apex or something like that because he's like screaming. And it's become this thing that's been really, really good. We can laugh about it. But one thing that I have noticed, like, and this is like from how we've talked about chat going from 0 to 100, like really quickly. If I was to say, oh, I'm not a fan of Matt today, he's stinky, and I'm just joking or whatever, you know, this has never happened, but just as a hypothetical, there have been some members in chat that would like take that and run with it. And then all of a sudden, my boyfriend is stinky, he's gross, he's disgusting. And then another day it'll be like, oh, where's stinky Matt? And it's like a completely different other day. And it's like, that's my boyfriend who I really, really love, by the way. So can we not? So my mods are pretty good with that, though. They'll be like, can we just stop doing that? Like, that's... So I have found that, like, yeah, like, I mentioned one thing, it could be in jest. It normally is. I have nothing bad to say about him ever. So it's in jest, but it will just sometimes snowball with a couple of members.
Yeah,
but
it's like they see a wedge that they're like, oh, I could drive a wedge right here.
Yeah,
it's that.
It's very strange. And Galaxy, I totally feel you on that. I wasn't like adverse to talking about my now husband. But you're right. There was this weird thing. It's not like I wanted to hide anything from anybody. It's not like I wanted, like, it's not as though it wasn't as though I were trying to mislead people. There was just this awkwardness that I felt talking about him sometimes because, like, I never totally knew how people were going to respond. And, like, then on top of that, I mean, going back to our Pride episode, and Sonya, I know you've talked a little bit on social media about this too. There's that whole other element where it's like, it seems like sometimes like being pansexual or bisexual or anything, right? And yet having a partner that might be of an opposite gender or, you know, whatever it is, causes this mass confusion that it should not be as perplexing, right? And I'd mentioned like my ex who was a woman, and somebody would be like, you dated a woman? And I was like, I dated all women before this one man with beautiful eyelashes that I married. Like, I never expected him, but him and his eyelashes came into my life, and here we are. Like, but it would cause these weird dissonances where I was suddenly like, their perspectives of what was happening or going on in my life made me feel very like awkward about it. And I remember the first time that like, when we came back from our wedding and I did like a wedding photo stream, I had a moment where I was like, there are going to be like 5 people here because no one cares. And there were like 100, almost 200 people. And I was sitting there like, oh, wow, this is actually really touching to me. like that they would care. That like I thought this whole time that I was like inconveniencing them talking about this, or like you were saying, there's like something awkward about it being a woman talking about your relationship. Because too, then you get those comments sometimes where people are like, well, I'm forever alone and I'll never find someone like you. Or like, and you're going like, oh, please stop. Like,
there's a situation, especially when like I don't experience this anymore as far as I know. But also I am married too, so not available. But when I was younger, I definitely experienced, I'd be talking to somebody, having a nice conversation. I thought they were a perfectly fine person. We could be friends. And as soon as they learned that I had a boyfriend, they were like, oh, peace, bye. Oh,
Yep.
So that's all you were here for. Okay. So there's that little seed in the back of your mind, like, this person seems cool, but if I tell them that I am in a relationship, are they gonna leave? Is this what they're here for? And you don't want to know that that's what they're there for either.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, especially as a content creator, because you're over there playing games and like working your butt off and trying to do all this stuff and create all this entertainment and things. And like Sonya, like you said, when people just say out of nowhere, like, "Oh, well, you're okay, bye," and you're like, "Okay, bye."
Yeah.
like it's so weird that weighs in on why people will or won't watch or like join a community. And it was weird because a few weeks ago, Galaxy, when you were saying about like the jokes and things, I don't know, I don't remember what it was, but it was something that was like so benign, like it was a completely benign thing, like that had no connection to this at all. And I don't even know what it was, but I was talking about my husband and I just said something offhand and somebody took that like tiny thing in the chat and like made a joke where they were just saying like, haha, because your husband physically abuses you. And I went,
what?
Yeah, like, and for my own personal reasons, that was extra upsetting to me. And like, I had to stop on stream and just be like, no, like, I want to be absolutely clear with everybody. My husband has not, nor would he ever physically abuse me. And that's not something we should be joking about. But like, there are those lines that step over, like that, or that get stepped over sometimes where people like, I don't know. Yeah, just do assume that they can like comment on something or like wedge, like you were saying, like do that wedge thing where you're like, no.
You know, being in MMO communities for so long, even as men, you get to see the playbook. You know, it's one of those things, and maybe Fusion, you can speak to this too. Like, you can oftentimes you see these guys before the women see the guys, and like that's a weird situation as well, because you want to be an ally and you're like, hey, this might not be good. But then there's situations where, you know, you don't want to know that your friend is a bad person, right? Right? You don't want to know that that's what they're after. And, you know, I might not be right. So it's one of those things where, you know, you don't feel like you should say anything, but you feel like you really should. And, you know, but you get to see these playbooks. That wedge, I've seen it countless times. And I've seen it succeed and I've seen it fail, thankfully. But it's common. It's very common. You know, and I can only imagine that when you're streaming and you know, when you're streaming, you're presenting yourself as like a friend to them, you know, like it's someone you could talk to. You're having this conversation. And I can only imagine the people who just immediately take that as, okay, I've got a foot in the door for anything, you know, like whatever they're trying to do. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I think we need to be a little bit more willing to speak up on those sorts of things. Like, maybe as long as you can prove it, or, you know, maybe not completely condemn them to start, but have your eyes open to this sort of thing.
And I think too, I mean, you know, talking about like, you know, trying to get some proof or whatever. I think if you see somebody acting a certain way, even if you don't have proof, talk to them on the side. Be like, hey, just so you know, this is how you're kind of coming off as, you know, across as. Maybe don't, you know, or you know, it's not to like try and hide it or something, but like, this isn't how we should be handling things. You know, and if there's an issue there, just they're gone, you know.
Do you have any things that, you know, any of you would like to say to people, to men, to you know, just anyone who is kind of a bystander to this? Like, you know, are there better ways to approach it? Are there worse ways to approach it? You know, like if they want to say, hey, I noticed this in this person, is, you know, are you okay with this? because a lot of people are just afraid to bring it up because then they'll be like, oh, well, that's my friend, that's okay, and they'll dislike you instead.
I'm not sure that there's a good way. I think that the situation varies highly. I think if you want to present this possible situation to a friend and you yourself are not sure, maybe just hey, I think so and so might have a crush on you, or I think so and so's intentions for you are such and such. I'm not sure. That doesn't necessarily paint them in a good or a bad light, just puts that flag out there for the receiving party to go, oh, so they know something is going on.
Right.
I think one thing, it's a big question, right? And there's so many different like hypothetical miniature situations and like the type of, is it in game? Is it just over Discord? Is it in real life? Is it on chat? Is it like, there's so many different ways to address it. I think the biggest thing, and like I uphold this in like any online community, be it an FC or be it something that's like a more personal drama, I guess you could say, is that I always try to avoid gossip or hearsay in the sense of, if somebody sends me a slew of messages and those messages are just them being like, so and so is terrible because XYZ, blah, 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 they suck and they did that. And I will usually say to them, like, we can talk about this all day, but like, we are probably just blowing this out of proportion in a way that's not based off of anything tangible that we have. And like, we should be speaking directly to this person and we should be having like a dialogue and a conversation. And if there is anything tangible that we have, we should be like, you know, reviewing that as opposed to letting it like spiral out of control in like this game of telephone that can happen sometimes with guilds or free companies or with anything, right? So I usually try to like have more direction there as far as like if somebody you know, approaches you about somebody that they think is a problem that they heard might be from so-and-so and all this stuff. I'm usually like, if this is a problem for all of us as a static or whatever, as a community, then like we need to address it in some kind of official way as a unit and discuss it. If it's something where like you think that a friend of yours might be like in an awkward position or like somebody you know that, you know, is a woman that might be feeling this strange like pressure or, you know, this like harassment from somebody, I don't think it ever hurts to open the door and just say like you said, Zen, hey, I noticed that this might be awkward. Are you okay? Like, have you had any problems with this? Like, is there anything going on? Like, I noticed in Raid the other night that they made this weird sexual comment about you. Like, is that okay with you in the dynamic that's happening or not? And I think that, again, like going to those sources, the people that it affects, talking to them if they want to, and then being there to help, like, you know, make sure that their will is respected is important. And in Twitch chat, you can do that even just like we were saying, like by adhering to the general tone. Somebody comes in and says something like inappropriate and you're a member of that community, you can just say like, oh, hey, yeah, that's not really how we do things here. Or, you know, like whatever. Like it's holding your own community accountable and not going out of your way to like create gossip and drama without actually like addressing the people involved, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
a little
you
bit
know,
hard as a content creator to like come out to some people like that, like to just like approach people like and say, is this weird? Because you also don't want to seem like you're causing you know, drama when it didn't need to be, or you feel like maybe, I think that's a lot of the problems like we've seen like online where a lot of people have come forward in the last like month or so, like the people were too afraid to say anything because of was it like what you guys said earlier, proof. Do I have enough proof? Is this enough to say anything? Like, should I just, I know this happened to my friend, they've told me, but like, should I say anything to anyone else like that knows this person? Like, there were just people, I think, maybe just worried that they would seem like somebody was trying to start a fire when nothing was really happening because they weren't sure, you know? Like,
Yeah.
so it is definitely a really weird place to be. And we actually had to deal with that in our own community. We had a moderator who was actually soliciting people for nudes and relationships and stuff like that like a year and a half ago, and we ended up having to ban them. But all those people that he had messaged, some of them had messaged me telling me what happened, and I made it very clear, like, and we made an announcement in our Discord and stuff like that, like, if this happens to you, please let us know. Like, don't be afraid to tell us, like, because I know it's scary, and like a lot of women end up blaming themselves for things like that happening, and that, you know, they're afraid to come forward and tell you, and which happened to us, like the people in our community. But we made it very clear during that. And when I talked to them in person, I made it clear, it's like, if this ever happens again, please let us know, because there's no way for us to know that something is happening unless people tell us. Or if you're upset by the way somebody's acting in our chat or the way that people are approaching people, please let us know, because I can't handle it unless I know, and it sucks. But
yeah,
I think that's why we've seen so many mass stories come out in the last month, is because people were just too afraid to speak up. And it's unfortunate, but
Right.
And they could not know it's happening at all, or especially they just don't know how to deal with it. So if you as an outside person realize something that future possibly victim doesn't realize something, then
or you know, they see like the tip of the iceberg.
Not gonna hurt anything.
Yeah, they see a little bit and they don't realize, you know, how deep running this kind of behavior is. It's communication is so important for this kind of stuff.
If you do upset them and then something comes from that, they will very likely turn around and be like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Thank you for trying."
And it's important to remember that sometimes proof, because we hear this talked about all the time, right? Proof can just be an honest admission of what has happened. And like, of course, people want to a lot of times say like, well, you have to have the receipts and you have to have all these things. And like, I actually hate having to say this, because it does suck, but especially as a woman or a content creator, as anybody, if you end up in a situation where there is somebody who is abusing you and you can hold on to that information because you will feel worried or threatened, I mean, you can hold on to it. It doesn't make you a bad person. Like, you can use that to say like, hey, there is credence to what happened. And people sometimes view that as like, oh, you were being malicious because you held on to these beautiful things. But it's like, sometimes the perspective of the public is so stacked against you that, you know, like as a woman, you know, like, if I don't have these things, how will I ever actually have validity? But all of that aside, if you don't have those things, it doesn't make your story any less valid. You know, like, there are ways to still share that story. And as many of us know, like, I mean, if you think about any time you've shared something about your past with any other human being, and that was a big moment for you where you were like, there's this thing that I've never really talked about, but I really want to share it. Like, that, you don't keep everything from that, but it doesn't change the fact that it might have happened to you. Like, it doesn't change the fact that the story you shared wasn't, you know, it affected you, and that it was important to you. Like, so it's not necessarily squabbling over proof. Like when I was talking about proof earlier, mostly what I meant is just that, like, you are rationally processing what's happening and you are looking for plausible things, and, you know, like, but not that you should just invalidate somebody's beliefs or their story that they've shared with you because it doesn't have like a receipt stapled to it, you know?
It could even be proof for yourself. If you keep that information and you're in a very distressed mindset, and you go back in 3 months, more than that, whatever time, and you have a different mindset, you're more focused, you've seen more things happen, you can read over this proof you have, this chat log, whatever it may be, and prove to yourself that whatever is in there is wrong, or maybe whatever is in there is okay. The proof's not just for everybody else, it's for you also.
Yeah.
Yep. I know all of this as I see Fusion like peering ahead in the outline of today's discussion.
It's important though, because women aren't taught how to handle this stuff, and if we can touch on it a little, I think it's important to do so.
Yeah,
and you know, like I said, the outline is a guide, right? We don't have to follow it exactly. It's okay.
I know. But I am curious, because I've been wondering about this too. And we talked about this on the Pride episode. We talked about this on the Black Lives Matter episode as well. Kind of getting into 14 itself as a game, even beyond just like our content creation in general. But like 14 itself as a game, and why we think that community or the characters or things in it may foster a more welcoming space for diverse individuals, regardless of gender, sexuality, race, all those different things, right? Which was sort of our next area that we were planning on chatting about, unless anybody had more they wanted to add.
Oh, good.
No, I think that's good. I think we skipped around a little bit and kind of covered the other stuff towards the end. So let's jump into this other part.
You know what? I'm not gonna. All right. So
All right.
I'm afraid to bring this up, and that in itself is bad, right?
Just do it. Just do it.
Okay, so dick pics, guys.
Oh boy. It's that time.
Oh gosh. Okay.
I'm over here. Let's talk about Final Fantasy XIV and women's representation in 14. Sounds like, but guys, dick pics.
So I can't speak for anyone else, but obviously I have been offered these in a game for years and years and years, and I'm just like, no, I'm not here for that. I'm here to play a video game. So when I started playing Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy XIV,
yeah,
I told the group of guys that I was hanging out with, if I ever see any of your dicks, any of them, I am quitting this game. 100%, I am gone. I've never seen any of their dicks.
So this is my favorite story that's ever been told.
This is not where I thought this was going. I'm going to be honest here.
The thing is, in previous MMOs that I had played, it had been a problem for me. It had been a problem for my friends, and I don't know if coming into this fresh MMO with this fresh group of friends and just being like, don't do this to me, helped or not. But it did get me to a place with this group of friends where I feel comfortable as a woman. I don't feel threatened.
Right.
Perhaps the people who were like, I was going to send her a pic of my pic. Perhaps they screwed off immediately, right?
Yeah.
They're like going through their phones gallery. Man, I had one like picked out, like it was in focus and everything. It was perfect.
Man, I put some really nice filters on it too.
I was just gonna say filters.
Because
the makeup before the photo shoot.
Because Zen and I have been friends for so long, and on many MMOs, like, no, this is seriously a problem. Like, she and my girlfriend constantly in Final Fantasy 11, like, why? I don't even understand, right? And yes,
by the way,
there.
I started playing 11 when I was 17.
Yeah, I was there when she made this proclamation. So it's true. It's 100% true.
I have to ask Sonya Galaxy, have you ever had this happen? I've never had somebody in 14 send me a dick pic or try to send me a dick pic.
No, I haven't had it in games.
I had one.
I mean, it
exists.
One
person who I thought was my friend try and send this to me, and I think it was in Skype, so that's when people were still using Skype. I was not around at the time, so the picture did not go through because I didn't accept it. And when I got back, I saw that they tried to send this picture, and I guess it chickened out, right? Because I didn't immediately accept it. And then they tried to feed me some story about, oh, my friend found a picture on my phone and thought it would be funny to send my female friends this picture. And I'm like, how do they know I'm a woman? Why did they get into your phone? This is bullshit, and we're not friends anymore. Goodbye.
And also, why do you have pictures of your dick on your phone?
That your friends
that's not a thing normal guys do.
Yeah.
No, he was showing his friends the nice filters he put on his dick pics.
Yeah, I don't know.
Obviously.
There are warning signs. I guess I'm just to continue with this. There are warning signs, and people who you think might be your friends maybe aren't.
Right.
It's true.
It's one of those.
I haven't had that happen, but I've definitely had people like before streaming and playing games, people that would approach me, and sometimes it happens now. Like people will just approach me in game that don't know that I'm a streamer and stuff like that. They'll make conversation. I talk with people and stuff like that, but then like the conversation comes up like they'll talk about real life, and then they realize that you're a girl, and then it does like get a little weird sometimes. Like it almost like I've had points where people have like followed me around, and then they like try to like gift me things, and they try to like get closer and like be more personal with conversations and stuff like that. And it is a little awkward, and it does happen a lot. So it definitely is something that I would say that I definitely have to deal with as a female once people find out that I'm female. And then when they find out I stream now, they're like, oh, she's married. So I don't really have to deal with it as much anymore, but I did at one point.
Right.
I did. I had a random person send me a tell in Limsa just to be like, I was up late, they were up late, we were the only people in the city, so they decided to talk to me, I guess. And I was like, sure, why not? You know, I like to talk to people. I can make friends with a stranger, whatever. And they immediately went from, oh, hey, how are you doing, to, can I have your Discord name so we can talk in Discord? That would be more convenient for me. And I'm like, Is it more convenient for you? Because I don't give my Discord out to non-friends. I just don't.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's weird. No, it's not weird. You probably want to show me your dick. Goodbye.
I know how this goes. I've been through this rodeo before. No dick pic. Yeah, I've never had somebody do that. I mean, I've had, which is actually, I'll be completely honest, it's actually startling to me that I haven't, because I would think that I would have at some point, just because of the other weird things that I've had happen, or because of my gender, or the weird stuff that sometimes I've had sent to me. Like, I've had a lot of weird written stuff, but nothing that is like a photograph, which I'm extremely grateful for. Thank you, everybody. Don't start now. But I did notice when I started to get into roleplay in 14 that immediately I was presented with a couple different things that I think actually connect to sort of what you're talking about, Zen, in the idea of reinforcing consent in a digital space, right? And I think we've seen a lot of this happen and start to be more prevalent as, like, you know, stuff has come out on Twitch, as stuff has come out in the gaming communities, as stuff has even come out in large scale FCs that may have had mishandling, abuse of power, stuff like that, right? We've seen more and more that people are saying, like, we should enforce and, you know, promote in our community a consent culture. And that's usually something that I tell everybody right off the get-go, like with roleplay. Like, when I first started to get into it, I had to immediately decide for myself, like, I roleplayed, I should clarify, I roleplayed a lot when I was younger, but I had not roleplayed for a good handful of years. So I just within the past year got into it again in Final Fantasy XIV. But I was faced with this dilemma of, like, okay, one, I'm a streamer. So if anybody finds this, I have to make sure it's not going to, I don't know, destroy my career. Like, but I was like, not that I would do anything that would even do that. But like, immediately I started having to think about, like, well, even if I was okay with something like ERP, would that reflect poorly on me as a woman? Like, would people come into my chat and be like, you're a positive, you know, bubbly person, but I found out that you did one dirty RP and now you are a dirty woman. And like, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm sorry.
Bridges.
So I read a lot of fan fiction growing up, guys. So, but it's one of those things where, like, there are a full range of things that can happen in the game, from extremely mature to extremely benign. And I think that all of us, women, non-women, everybody has to sort of decide early on where your own lines of consent are. And then don't be afraid to reinforce them. Zen, like you did, say, like, no dicks. If I see your dick, that's it. It's over. Bye-bye. No more. No more Final Fantasy. Like, or if it's, you know, even an RP saying, like, I will not tackle this theme. If you start tackling this theme in a role play with me, that's it. You're blocked. Like, that's it. If you refuse to listen to what I say, you're out. Like, knowing that having your own empowerment in a space, and then also being in communities that support that and say, like, hey, this is what we should be doing and we should be asking these questions, can make the space better for everybody. So nobody gets the nice filter dick pic they never asked for, no matter how good the filter is.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, Fusion.
Yeah.
I'm done.
We actually run a strip club in our free company house. We've run a strip club for a while.
Do it.
And I can also see, like, well, I mean, like, just I go and I usually play, like, I play like a guard or like a bouncer or something like that a lot of times, or the person that's like guiding people to stage and back, or inviting people in and taking money and stuff like that. And I can definitely see, like, where people can step over those boundaries sometimes and they don't ask, they just do. Because I'll definitely get some different whispers, and I'm like, I felt the same way, like, as a female and as a streamer, like, if people find out, like, people are whispering me with these things, and, you know, like, are they going to look at me badly? Am I going to be seen as negative to other people, you know? Like, so I've gone through that too. I feel that.
Because women being sexual is a no-no.
God forbid.
Society.
No.
Yeah.
No, we're too powerful if we embrace our sexuality, so we must stay repressed. But yeah, there's definitely some of that still there. And there's a lot of questions that I hear about that in regards to just about everything, no matter who you are, as far as consent in game goes, or even, like, I was in an FC and people made me always do this thing and I hated it, or I didn't like this content, or I was upset by the way this person spoke to me or treated me. Like, it's definitely good to be able to enforce those boundaries and not be afraid of them, and also not to judge people for what they want to do in their spare time. You know what I mean? They're not hurting anybody.
They're not hurting you, yeah.
Go run that strip club, you know? Like, it doesn't matter. I do see in chat that male ankles are being flashed. Could you please contain those?
Do not.
Wow.
We're not rated for that sort of content, I don't think.
We didn't ask for these.
Oh my gosh. But I guess all of that said, outside of just the social community of 14, how does everybody feel about like female portrayal in the game itself?
Yeah. I said this on the Pride episode. I really like that the majority of the leadership is female. I enjoy the hell out of that. Especially, like, the setting is semi-futuristic with all of the Garlean stuff, but it's also kind of medieval, right?
Yeah.
It's that mixture that most Final Fantasies have. So it's an archaic sort of old style society, but the leadership is still predominantly female, and I really like that.
Really strong personalities too. Like they're not just like, you know, feminine, weak, kind of like typical portrayal that you would see in a lot of other games. Like they're very strong and very strong-willed in the way that they handle other people, and their opinions matter kind of thing. I do really like them for the most part. Yeah.
I think what's really good about Final Fantasy, and it's probably one of the reasons why the community as a whole is so wholesome and loving and accepting, is that there are so many different types of characters, whether they be male or female. There's so many different types. You've got evil females like Yotsu, right? But then you have all of the girls in the Scions and everything that are strong, they're powerful, but they're not always at the same level as each other in terms of like their strong-willed. I don't know what I'm saying. Strong-willedness. But like, but all of the characters, so even the males, there's just different. They have different strengths, different weaknesses, and I think that's what also then helps create such a good community, because we all clearly love the story too, right? So if we feel that we can connect to a story and we're not immediately going, oh no, there's so many women in power here, that's not right. You know, we're not going to stick around if we don't think that that's an okay thing to have. Right. So I think that, I think it helps to foster such a good community because of all of those different types. And you see them change, like Alphinaud and Alisei, you see them change and get stronger and more confident within themselves. You see that with Reen as well in Shadowbringers. Like, she's amazing. So, and you see, even it's just Eden, but Gaia, she changes too. And it's about showing strength that, like, you know, you can have flaws as a person, whether you're male or female, and you can work on them. And you can draw upon the strength of other people who you are around to do that. And I think that's also what helps make the 14 community so wholesome as a majority, because they represent everyone.
Yeah, to me, one of the ways to fight tokenism, you know, yes, we put a woman in there because, yes, we put this, you know, this race in there because it's to make it not a big deal. It's not a big deal that, you know, there's 3 female, you know, leaders. It's not a big deal because they don't treat it as a big deal in game. It's not weird.
Address it.
Yeah, exactly.
No one addresses a race. No one addresses a color. No one addresses a gender.
Doesn't matter at all. And that's how you fight that sort of tokenism. It doesn't matter. They're not a token. There's a lot of them. That's just normal, you know? Yeah. And I think I think that you're right. That has gone a long way to make everyone who experiences that content or you know, deals with that media to go, okay, well, that's normal. Okay.
Yeah.
Why say anything about it then?
And I do love that even some of those, I was going to say, thinking about some of the villainous characters that you were mentioning, Galaxy, even some of those characters have had some of, I think, the best arcs in the game. Like, Yotsuyu into Tsukiyomi is like one of my favorite things still from Final Fantasy. Like, what an incredible journey.
Yeah.
It's so tragic. but it's so good. And you know, we also had Fordola down here on this list, who, even though I'm like, I think we could get some more with Fordola because they did give us a little bit more with patch stuff, but like Fordola is so interesting in the larger themes of like a narrative from Stormblood about like what it means to be part of an occupied culture, which is like what MMO is like, oh, hey, guess what? We're going to examine now through a character what it means to have your whole culture taken over by another one and be under military rule. Like, it's such a huge thing, but it is also something that I think gets overlooked a little bit sometimes in just how much complexity that adds to Fordola as a character and all of her actions and what drives her, and then her eventual kind of like coming around that we sort of get to see. Like, there are so many very interesting characters in the game. And even like Alice, like you were saying, her journey and the fact that between her and her twin brother, she is by far the more kick-ass of the two, whereas Alphinaud is the little wet blanket who cannot swim. Like, it's so good.
I think Alice is
when he jumps off the bridge and he's like going to swim. He's like,
yeah. I think having played this game since the beginning, I think Alice is probably one of my more enjoyed like female characters. Like just seeing her progression, because it starts off she's just kind of like in coil, and like she's like on the side, but then they start weaving her in. She's like the first red mage that we see in the game, and she turns into like this badass. If you're doing trust, she's like always busting that limit break out as soon as she can, because she's like trying to impress you and show you what a badass she is. But she can still pick out an Alphinaud, and I think that's awesome. Like she's still, you know, she's like this strong character, but she also knows how to pick on her brother, and I think that's awesome. I love that dynamic that they have.
Yeah, and she has her own weaknesses, and none of that is weird, because it's not weird. People are that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, Ishtola's little sunline is an iconic thing that will never vanish as far as just great female character moments in this entire game. But I mean, I think too with Shadowbringers, we're starting to see maybe one of the flaws that we've had so far with female portrayal, which is that we have had some very diverse women in the game as far as like personalities go, but we haven't always had the most diverse representation of women in the game as far as actual like physical bodies and or, you know, depictions sometimes go. And we talked about this a little bit with the Black Lives Matter episode, that sometimes Square Enix kind of falls into this like magical young girl trope where, you know, you've got like Minfilia, you've got Reen, you've got these different characters that are kind of this look or this sort of feel. And I saw in chat the moment we started talking about female characters, Dulia Chai, who can we just like give a little shout out?
You know, it's interesting. Me and my wife, we actually went through and we ended up just rewatching all the expansion like trailers a couple weeks ago, and you get to that part with Yulmore, right, and all the fat cats. You know how many fat cat models there are in the game? One. And it's Dulia Chai. And then there's like a masked version of her that occasionally walks around. One.
Yeah.
No
okay.
at all, right?
None.
No. There's one model of any sex in the game. One.
And yet people love her.
Yes.
They love her. Like, I
she's a good character.
Yeah. It was.
No, she's a great character.
We can have characters that are different. And I mean, even like we've got Merlveeb, who's like a, you know, Rugadan woman. But I mean, even in the past, we've seen some discussions even about promotional pictures and stuff like that, trying to ensure that like all women of all races that are in the game are represented or shown, as opposed to just like Mikote or Midlander.
Yeah.
And we obviously lost Minbrita, who was a shining beacon of muscular just light. That exists.
I have such a torn opinion on that character because I really liked the personality that was starting to form, but I hate what they did with her. It's like, here's this and never mind.
They brought her in just to kill her. Like,
what a waste.
They did. I would have loved to see her and Urianger.
Yes.
Now,
yeah. Urianger liked somebody, and now they're dead. Yeah.
I love the calendar. The December month of the one calendar they released has Moonbrita and Urianger. Like, she's handing him a present and they're like kind of side by side snuggling. And that was the best one.
Adorable.
It's so cute. She picked him up in her strong arms and carried that little elephant.
We have so many F's in chat for Moonbrita right now.
I know. Like, you know, we all love Urianger and the Pixies, like Moonbrita was such a perfect foil for him because she.
I feel like I would. I feel like I would like him so much better if she was still around because I actually hate him. I actually hate him. I'm like, why do they get off him? I literally hate him.
I think it'd be great because
I know everyone's using so much crap for it.
I like him and Thancred being co-dads. I love it.
Yeah.
I like it from the idea of having an older version of Aldianaux and Alice, right? Because you would have that same, not quite brother sister, right? But you would have that same kind of always kind of picking on each other kind of dynamic, I think, with the two of them if she was still around. I think that would have been great.
Someone who is his intellectual equal, but also more world aware as well. To just be like, no, you're stupid. Don't do that. You know, like, no, we should not let her be Shiva. What are you doing? Right? If Moonbrita was there,
we can still fix this. There could still be a Moonbrita equivalent on the first. They just haven't bumped into each other yet. We can still remedy this, Square.
Oh my goodness. That actually does bring me to one thing that I did want to talk about with everybody. I'm curious how everybody feels about it. Thinking about the Shiva shenanigan, but also many other things around that. If we have really good depictions of women as far as like characters go, and we're getting slightly better depictions as far as, you know, diversity of physical bodies and beauty for those women, how do we feel about the primal and or boss designs of female characters in comparison to others? Because I guess what makes me think of this is the fact that, like, we were talking about, we just got some art with 5.3, right?
Yeah.
And we have this character, again, who's a female boss in this dungeon that everybody's really excited about, and I think she's very cool. But immediately it dawned on me that I was like, okay, so she's scantily clad.
Not really wearing anything.
Not wearing anything. She's fit beyond all comprehension. She has a cute, you know, beautiful, perfect doll face. She had, like... And that even goes back to like Shiva. I mean, that's a problem with Final Fantasy in a long-running way, right? The fact that oftentimes the like more male of the summons or the primals or the enemies that you get are typically more ferocious, powerful, strong, fiery, whatever it is.
Like you get Ifrit, you get Titan, you get Ramu, and those are all different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you get Lakshmi.
Yeah. And you get Shiva. And you get Garuda. Garuda's my girl, and I love her. She's angry. I like the anger, but
varied probably. But I was thinking about
why don't we get like female other types? Sorry, like Praise Valga, for example, or Nidhogg.
Yeah, why
aren't we fighting girl dragons? Why aren't we fighting girls that are like Zervan?
That's why there was a war.
One girl was murdered.
I mean, like, like I get it, like story wise, but I just mean like just just overall, Garuda, okay, she's a siren, right? But she could have been just a gigantic bird. At the same time, didn't have to actually have a female form.
Yeah, so the only two
that is a slight difference.
The only two I could think of were the woman in Circus Tower with all the dog heads.
Scylla is super cool, but she's also
technically under a curse.
Well, she's under a curse.
Yeah.
But she also has the deepest V that's ever been known to mankind.
Yeah. And she's got all of this side boob going on.
Yeah. The Sphinx-esque thing in the Ronkin Ruins that you play the like matching card game with. I think that's a woman.
Oh, and
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
That was really cool. Yeah, can chat think of any Suzaku? I did think about Suzaku when I was thinking about this earlier, because technically Suzaku does almost have like a boyish, like a boyishness androgyny to her.
She does,
Granted, she does spend the whole fight lamenting about her love.
Right. See, and that's
that's the issue, I think. That's like a sad princess kind of.
It's like one of the. It's got to have one of the other kind of thing.
Right? If she's not sexualized, she's nothing without her male partner.
Right.
You know? Like it'd be nice to see characters that didn't have either of that had like more of a strong personality, but not half naked all the time.
Right.
Yeah, like a boss that is just. I mean,
they did that to Reen too.
Oh yeah, the Reen thing is a whole other. that's the other thing. The depiction of Reen and Shiva, which has been really controversial, the nudity, the look away, the mechanics, the fact that Yoshida had to make an announcement before this patch even came out about not modifying the game or modding the game for making her nude or, you know, depicting her in a sexualized way because she's underage. Like, how we've shared our thoughts. I mean, how do you either of you have strong feelings about that? Or, I mean, even if it's, you know, that you have no problem with it. I mean, there's been a lot of different, I think, good opinions about it.
I think if it's something that you need to have, like, I think it was like an hour-long discussion beforehand saying, don't sexualize our game. And then she would only be like 15, 16, isn't she?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So, and then immediately that is what is released. It was a little on the nose. And I don't think it was necessary for the story of it either.
No.
Even when Hraesvelgr comes and joins, at that stage she's pretty much completely naked, except for she's got like a piece of material and dragon bra. Like, that's not even necessary. There could have been another way. She could have just been sitting on top of Hraesvelgr, like riding him as a like, and I mean that in a non-sexual way as I'm bringing this up. But it could have. There could have been so many. Like, it wasn't necessary. It didn't add to the story.
Yeah.
Nowhere did it say that Shiva was naked when we fought her.
It was Saint Shiva, right? And this is a kind of medieval, historical. Why wasn't she a knight? You know, why didn't we get? That would have been amazing. A dragon knight.
Oh my god!
Oh, that would have been real cool.
That would have been so cool.
I don't understand. Like, that's what I was expecting.
Yeah, and I mean, then you could have had a really great parallel with the fact that Reen's journey kind of ends with her taking power in her own fate and like her future, and like, yeah, that would have been real cool. That would have been real neat. Unfortunately, that's not what we got.
Right.
And I do just have to say, like, I've heard so many arguments about it. Right. The idea that, like, well, it's not really her. She's been possessed by this entity, this spirit, this idea, this concept of what Shiva was. And I agree with it to a point, but I do think I had a problem with the fact that her model was the exact same model as she is her underage body.
Her face didn't change.
And her face, like, and you know, you have these mechanics that are the, like, she's undressing, look away from her, tee-hee-hee-hee-hee. And you're like, no, not tee-hee. We just said no to this in our community, no tee-hee. And like, it was uncomfortable for me personally, and I can only speak for myself, but like progging that every week and sitting through that cutscene where Hraesvelgr snakes up her naked body and then like becomes her bra, I was just like, this is so like,
you know, I wouldn't even have minded the snaking up part if she had clothes on.
Yeah.
Like, why is she not wearing clothes at all?
And I'm seeing, like, in chat as well, someone's just mentioned that it's because of how Sail was portrayed as Shiva. But she was a grown woman. Like, she was an adult. She, you know, Reen is, in every other sense, is shown as a child.
Yeah.
Like, there is no instance where she's shown as more than that.
Yeah, and this is all supposed to be based on various people's memories conglomerating into something we can fight. Who's thinking about Reen that way?
Yeah, like, which one was that?
Who's doing this?
Speaking of the Stay Puft Marshmallow
Who's getting kicked out of the game?
Oh, Zen, now you made me extra sad.
I mean, yes, the Warrior of Light has some traumatic brain injuries going on to imagine Leviathan is two-headed. That's fine. We get that, but why go immediately that way instead of like a priestess or, you know, some sort of dragon, like, you know?
Could her face not have changed? Because I don't think Isael's face was her face as she was Shiva either.
No, I mean, she obviously has the whole change. I mean, even if they had just turned her into Isael,
fine too.
or like into Shiva, like,
You know what? That could have been a cool story moment. Turn her into Isael because we remember her.
Yes.
And we're sad about her not being around anymore.
Right.
Yeah. And then Gaia towards the end gets worried that her friend has been lost or like consumed by our own memory of another person and leaps in to try and like break the illusion of it. Like I think there's a lot more that could have been done with that. And yeah, I mean, like you said, Galaxy, it kind of hit it on the head a little too weirdly right after having to make this announcement. And yeah. It's just I'm sorry, I'm catching up in chat. Like in Japan, I mean, it's true, but I mean, Japan is also, and this is a whole other discussion that we can have about media and cultural. You know, there are definitely things that I think can like weigh into that, and it is a problem. And there's a lot of things that have sort of surrounded that, even from other media that has come out of Japan. But I do think it's tough when you are in an international audience, and that's part of what Yoshida actually addressed, right? The fact that like in many countries, those mods may even be illegal because like depending on what sort of laws they have as far as underage depictions, media, sexualization, etc. go, that could bring even more down on them as far as actual legal, like, like if you have these things, you are breaking the law in this country.
They're aware and they know who they're developing for.
Yeah. So it's that in particular was really, 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 really strange to me. And I did not particularly care for it. And I think it's one of the few, even with all of our half-naked primals, I think it's one of the few moments in the game where, as a female player, I did kind of sit there for a moment and go, somebody on your team should have said something about that.
See, look, I don't want to always just be like the girl being against girls being sexualized. Like, I often don't mind a sexualized female character because if that's their way of showing their empowerment, like how with what Sonya was saying before, like with titty streamers, if they got their tits out, power to them. Like if that's what makes them feel good, that's what makes them feel good. Where I had the issue was she's a child,
and it was
or a teenager,
And it was
that to me was the issue. That shouldn't. And right after what they were, it was an hour long. Like, oh my god, my dad's yelling at me.
He was upset, and
Yoshi Papa.
And in game, on top of that, we're all like, this is a really bad decision. We shouldn't. You shouldn't. Try and channel Shiva. We're gonna do it anyway. It's gonna be great. Just watch.
You can't give them the leeway of, oh, it's a Japanese game, right after they said that they have to follow other rules, right? Like, I like anime. I still do. There are really weird things going on there, right? I get it. I understand that. But they just said, we're trying to be more international. We're trying to appeal to all of these different kind of cultures. So we have to do this.
Don't sexualize our characters and make them look like they're children, like Lalafell. So, they've got all of that, and then they have the child in the story at the time.
And I don't know. It's one of those questions. If Reen was male, would they even have gone in that direction?
No.
I doubt it.
Can you, I mean, really, honestly, can any of us here imagine a fight in Final Fantasy XIV that came out where it was a beautiful young underage boy who had a major mechanic that was a look away while he undressed and who halfway through got butt naked in a glowing torrent of light so that a dragon snake could climb up him?
I'm going to be honest, nothing comes to mind.
No.
We laugh about it because it sounds ridiculous, and yet it's not ridiculous when it's an underage girl. Like,
and that's really the thing.
That's a good point.
I've always said that I wanted Urianger to do it instead, and I wanted him to go as sexy as possible, just to be like, "Hey, look."
That's right. Yeah, we talked about that.
That would have been hilariously amazing. And that would have been good.
But they wouldn't even do that to even if it was like Thancred. They wouldn't have done that to him either. Regardless of whether it was a child or an underage male, they wouldn't have done it to like Thancred or Urianger because well, they didn't, did they?
No, and yeah, it is funny. I don't know, like it's not as though we don't have a wide variety of characters of different ages. I mean, Matoya exists, Alfino, like because I was trying to think earlier, like, oh well, you know, maybe there are no younger male well, there are, but there is like this very specific bend to a lot of the female characters. I mean, even Lakshmi, what is she known for?
Come into my bosom.
Get in my bosom. Like welcoming you into her bosom. Like it's very interesting. Shiva steps on you, which don't get me wrong, I don't want Shiva to ever stop stepping on me, like I said earlier, but like there's a line, I think, between just like having all characters be a sexualized, you know, like a sexually empowering version of a woman versus having characters that do show the variety of things that we see with like the male primals, at least, and primals specifically, right? Like, I mean, when you think about Susanoo, how cool it is that his is all about like the revelry of combat. When you think about Ravana, who's about conquest, when you think about all these different characters, and Garuda does kind of stand out because at least originally she is the Fury, right? Like she is supposed to be this like vengeful sort of creature.
Crazy though, actually.
Yes, but at the same time, I don't know if I necessarily think that her fight or a lot of the other fights with female characters reflect that same diversity of like spirits. It kind of does tend to lean more towards like there will be something about this fight that is vaguely sexy. And
to me, when I think of like the story of Saint Shiva, I think of like determination, you know, or something like that. Like that's or a doggedness of, you know, doing what you think is right. And so that's harder to show, obviously, than okay, I'm mad, or, you know, things like that. But you could throw that into design. That's why I immediately think of a knight, you know, a steadfast
dragon.
Well, and that's the thing.
To have like the change mechanic, like you said, turn into like a priestess kind of outfit, and then a knight outfit. There's your change.
Yeah, and it's you gotta, for a lot of this stuff, you gotta take it at face value too, because not everybody is gonna know the lore behind everything, right? Like you think about like Sophia, right? And it's like, oh, okay, like Sophia, like okay, she's just like the thin woman with a giant head thing, but then like you hear about like the story with like the lyrics of the song, and you're like, oh, that's dark. That's not fun at all.
But
like
balance. That's why you're sliding sideways.
I love Sophia. I like her. While her it's so tough because her design is like she is butt naked. She got some strips. She's standing on a head that's also her daughter. Like it's very
weird.
Complicated family life.
But I mean, I do think that her mechanics at least demonstrate something about her character, right? The idea of scales tipping, a balance of, and her lines are really good. And even, I mean, the fact that we talked about, oh my gosh, of course now my brain's gonna go, three-headed dog woman, Scylla? Scylla is unvoiced, but she has some really cool lines. Like one of my favorite lines is her last one where she says like, at last the hounds grow silent, I can rest, or something. And like, that's so cool, but she's unvoiced. So we don't really get like the full impact of it. And the other one that came to mind, is it Agrias?
One of my favorite characters ever, period.
She's from like 9 or Tactics or something, isn't she? Tactics.
She's
so it's kind of not a 14 character.
I mean, she's cool though. Hearing you talk about the knight made me think of her immediately, right?
Yeah, she's cool.
You know, it's hard because you're talking about Sophia, and I love that fight. I mean, I didn't at the time, mostly because it was just hard to see some of the stupid things. But I think that there's space to talk about being able to enjoy the design, even though it's sexualized, maybe, but realize that it's not just a design, right? In that fight, it's not just her design that's the focus point, you know, like it's like, okay, yes, she's this way, but there's also more to her character. There's more going on. And knowing that it's okay, like, you know, everybody has this moment where they're like, oh, but Sophia, and I really liked the way she looked, but it's kind of part of the problem. There's space to like it, but also see that maybe we shouldn't continue doing it. You know, it's hard for people to have both of those opinions and they feel bad about it, but it's okay. That's
I think variety is the thing, right? Because we have a variety with the male primals,
right?
And do we even have a sexy male? Yeah, we do in the Four Lords.
And innocence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a glow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, really,
huge glow up right there.
But the farthest we get is like sort of modified sexy females. Even with Ruby Weapon, like I was like, Darnus is kind of, but still kind of just a sexy lady. Ruby Weapon is half a sexy lady with a robot bottom.
You know what? Give us the Maga sisters in the next expansion. Let us fight a big bee woman.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, please. I want to see something more diverse from the female models and characters and things. I mean, it's hold up. Is Kuklain technically female? No. I was for a second. I was like, wait, no.
I think
Kuklain is a man.
Male.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's tough. I mean, even in the Void Scent raid, even in Gunn's game, the queen is like a cute Lolita girl. Like, and then you get to Diablos, and he's again like a ripped demon.
Yeah.
Just like it's funny because while we do have male characters that I think people have sexualized, even if they are like naked, they are not necessarily presenting themselves in a way. Byako is in the chat. Like Byako has a little bit of there's a little bit of like there's a little phallic kind of thing going on there.
That's true.
But that's like his stance, his dialogue, his moves are not about that.
Yeah. I think that's the issue. Like so when we look at Sophia and you can be like, I like what Sophia looks like. She's a badass bitch. She looks hot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
But then you have the new Shiva in Eden, and it's not just, oh, she looks real hot. It's her mechanic is she's a 15 or 16-year-old girl. She's look away. Like
if that wasn't there,
it's become more than just what it looks like. It is part of the mechanic of that fight, and that is what I think tips the line between it's what it looks like, it's what typical Final Fantasy stuff has always looked like, versus it's become an issue because it's a mechanic.
Yeah, and
I think if that mechanic wasn't there, even if Hrace Felgar was still doing the winding up the body thing, do you think if we weren't made to look away from a 15-year-old girl or get stunned, do you think it would be a little less terrible?
No, because she's 15.
It's worse, I feel like.
Yeah.
So is it just the mechanic then? Or does that just add to it?
I think it adds to it, and I think it's the story behind it, her being, we know that she's 15, 16, and in every other sense of the story, she's not sexualized, and it's drawn to our attention that she is young and not capable of looking after herself, not necessarily that she's not, but she's got father figures, right? Urianger and Tancred. Whereas, like, if she had even if it was her, but then they changed what she looked like in the fight, might have been better. If they had changed her, made her look older, or if, how we were saying before, maybe she changed and she started looking like Isael. I think it would have been a different thing, because it also came off the back of the don't sexualize children.
It's all that stuff together. It just
it's not
everything all together. It's just not a pretty cake that we've baked.
How do you expect your community to make changes and do things better if you're not doing it yourself? Promoting, not doing it, so.
Yeah, we were talking about setting the tone in your community, like you're just saying, and this is setting the tone right after setting the tone.
Yep.
It's like we just spent an hour yelling at you and playing disappointed dad, but this is the opposite. Don't do this. What we're doing here, don't do it.
We're going to demonstrate for you what you shouldn't do, but we're going to also put it in the game officially.
Do what we say, not what we do.
Exactly.
And weeks on end, because there's no other content. And you spent hours doing this.
Yeah. Titania?
Titania is the lady.
Oh, Twin
Tanya.
Oh,
Not Titania.
yes.
That's
Hey,
There's one.
you
Okay, we
are
have one lady dragon.
one lady dragon. Twin Tanya.
There's the one that you don't fight.
Up in Azazal, you don't fight her, but crap, Tiamat.
I mean,
that's it.
Tiamat.
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
Wait, you do fight Tiamat in one of the dungeons, right?
No,
She's
I don't think
No,
so.
she's like all like bound up and
Hanged
stuff.
up.
She never goes anywhere.
Oh no, you're right. Who am I thinking of? There's one who is Nidhogg's consort.
Oh, yeah.
That's at the end of one of the
I
dungeons.
think it also starts with a T.
Yeah, it does. I forget. It's like in Salmal or the area?
Tiamat.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So there is that one. But again, it's sort of not super iconic.
Right.
They're not
Yeah.
iconic ones. No.
Yeah.
I mean, okay,
Yeah.
maybe Twintania is. She's
Yeah.
Tanya is, yes. Yeah.
definitely
And I
those
mean,
dive bombs. Oh,
Well, you've also got the name of the dragon. That
We all try to
it's
remember
it's
Draconic lore.
right. Heaven's word. She's in. You know, she's up there in the tower. She comes to like the little peacekeeping ceremony. She's got
you're
the
talking
horns.
about Hraesvelgur's granddaughter. Hraesvelgur's granddaughter, whose name is
Vidofnir.
is it
Vidofnir.
Mhm.
That's thank you, Chat.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I would have adored it if they had done something with Ratatoskr. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that would have been like, oh man, I just like, even if it was like a memory fight or something, like how cool would that have been? And we do still have a bunch of the other original worms that haven't actually been like
That's
introduced.
true.
The first brood that haven't been introduced yet. So there's the possibility for that too. But I mean, the fact that, I mean, kind of like we were talking about with Pride, LGBTQIA plus representation in the Pride episode, if you have to start like scrambling for exceptions to the rule,
Yeah.
that's when, you know, you kind of can tell that there is something that might be like predominant that could be changed. And I do think that look-away mechanic, Galaxy, I hadn't even thought about it until we had that whole discussion. I'm so glad that we did. It does feel more like it has more weight, I think, because it does seem to indicate that they know exactly what they're doing.
Right.
And I think that's what really gets me about it.
It's
like,
not just a character model at that stage,
Yes.
regardless
Yeah.
of age or anything. It's
Yes.
not just a character model at stage.
Yeah, and like the whole discussion about like, well, she's not actually herself, but then when it's paired with that and with her model being the same and with everything, it's like, well, they are still acting as though she is, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where it does get uncomfortable. And I can't think of any of the other primals that necessarily do that. This one in particular has been like a hot topic.
Mhm.
But I mean, it would be really nice, I think, to see something different. Like, let's just have something different moving forward. I mean, yeah,
Different
just
but not
anything.
worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different, but not like, you know, super, super contrite.
had
But
to
like,
do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they've already shown that it's easy to do that, right? Because we were just talking about what they do well with the strong women leaders that we don't even notice.
yeah,
They
yeah,
could do it.
for sure. For sure.
So I just scrolled down a list of all of the raid tier bosses.
Uh-huh.
We got Twintania.
Wow.
You might make a case for like Imdagood,
Or
because-
Kalia.
yeah, or Kalia, but it's
The-
the like coral
electric, yeah.
robot-y electric lady with the children. But it's basically a coral model.
It's in Binding Coil. Is it the third or the second?
Oh, I know who you're talking
Yeah.
about.
First, actually, I think
It's first, is it?
10. I think it's 10.
No.
10.
Okay, yeah.
T10, and then Kalia's T11.
Mhm.
Technically another monster, but yes, yeah, like
Yeah.
a creature.
But those
Yeah.
are
But
those
again,
are-
it's
unless you
still-
count Reflation.
Can't remember them
Yeah.
and scrape in a barrel.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Scrape in a barrel.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the closest that I think we get to the male depiction, the female depiction being represented similarly, which was also mentioned in the chat, is MF, which I
Yeah.
do actually love that
Yes.
fight, and I do actually love and adore their design. Like, I think that there is something like really cool there, as in they both have a very aesthetic sense to them when they are in their more human form, and then, you know, like as they kind of transform over the fight, that
And they
feels
match
very
each other.
equivalent. They
Yeah.
match, yeah.
It's not like he's super duper big and buff and strong and she's tiny, big boobs kind of thing. Like they actually look the same.
Kind of cooler than he is, I think.
Yeah, that's about the closest I think we've gotten to like seeing the male primals kind of like shift into that more, I guess, female style, which I hate saying, but
androgynous.
Yeah, the more androgynous sort of territory.
So I guess sum up, bosses and primals, please.
We need some more diversity.
We've seen some solid characters. We would like to see some bosses that aren't just fan service.
Yeah.
I want to see a big, strong bodybuilder female.
Yes.
Female Titan. Oh my god, a female Titan. They could have done a female Titan.
That's so good. That would have been so good. Yes, I would love to see like some really buff characters, even in our main lineup of characters. Like, I'd love to see a main in the main story, Scion's level kind of character that we see and interact with and know like in a familiar way that does push those bounds. Like whether it would be somebody else, again, like a character that, you know, may be like a fat character, which I love and I think can be so beautiful and so wonderful. Or it could be somebody who's really buff that like is not just like a side character, but is also in like the actual proper lineup as like a major recurring.
You know what?
Character.
I'm gonna square. If you're watching, I'm gonna give this to you. When we go to the New World, it just so happens that Moonbrita had a sister that's been over there doing some work. Twin sister hasn't been mentioned up to this point.
Yeah.
Who's a bodybuilder?
There we go. Who's a bodybuilder?
There you go.
Our fellow companion who
Moonbrita was all into the ethereological studies. She's been doing some of this too, but also in more of a different sense to use it to get buff. She heard about this like crazy blue ether canyon thing from the Blue Mage dude in Old Da. She's over there seeing how ripped she can get from it. Done.
I just want to see her bench press Oriange and to be like reading a book while she does it, which would be the truest love we could ever witness in this
bench pressing Oriange with one hand, holding the book with the other for him to read while he's being benched.
Oh my gosh. This is the best thing you've said all episode.
This is great. This is the greatest thing. Someone needs to do this. I can't draw.
Oh my gosh. That would be so beautiful. Yeah, would she please? No more naked underage
take a break from the fan art of the new dungeon boss and let's get some Oriange bench pressing in.
Yeah.
I wish I had any art skills whatsoever right now.
Oh, it would be so good.
If someone listening and watching has some skills, please.
Yeah.
We need this. We need this. Yeah. But I'm trying to think of anything else that I like want from Final Fantasy XIV's depiction of women. I don't know if I really have anything. Does anyone else? Like, is there anything else that you can think of? Like, oh, we should have this.
Maybe more like Julia Try.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's nice that we have her. Yeah, it's nice that we have her, but to have that being like, there's just you have the this kind of skinny female character, and then the one like chubby Mikoto. Like there needs to be. I mean, and obviously, like I get for designing and resources and all that, right? It's harder to do that, but I think there needs to be more of that if you're going to introduce like a body type.
But that's
add more than one character with it.
Yeah,
that's also
it's
true.
Easier with the resources. You make one model, you put different hair on it. Like, but that being said, I would want to see males like too. I know that we technically had all three, but if there was another model as well, and maybe one in between, because otherwise, then we're only getting two extremes again. Yeah,
and it's weird too, because going back to that trailer, I don't know if any of the fat cats we saw in Yolmor were females. I don't recall it. There could have been, but I think there were a lot of males, and we have 0 in game, and that feels weird. But also at that same time, I don't think we're going to get one at this point because we're pretty much done with Yolmor story wise. Yeah. So they kind of. I mean,
people of all builds can exist anywhere. Like, and that's the thing.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Because when you think about that too, and I had not really considered this until now, but here we are. Like, Yolmor is characterized as a place of excess, but excess to the point and detriment of its people's well-being. And like when you think about it in that way, and you think about that being the only place where we do see a character that is like overweight,
one character.
Yes, and I shouldn't say overweight, but that is just fat. Like, and I say fat without any like condemnation. You know what I mean? Like as a just a descriptor. Like, and I do wish that we could see more of that. And even and we've talked about this in a bunch of other episodes, right? Like CC options. I would love if we had options for like muscular women, or body sliders are tough, and I understand that with our gear. But I mean, there is kind of a bend where some of our like female options, especially with like Lady Aura and stuff like that, do tend to lean more towards the cute or petite versus like, you know, here is my woman that looks like she just crawled out of a, I don't know, like a blender because she has fought her way through the front lines and now she is the most powerful, scarred, gnarly woman that's ever existed. Like, you know, it would be nice to just have some options that like weren't always precious and that could be more, you know, and there are some with like Highlander women and Rugadin women and things like that. But because they aren't always, I think, as showcased, we do also see, and because there are other prejudices in the world that exist, we don't always see 100% positive reception to those characters. And there are a lot of people who love female Rugadins, myself included. But like there are a lot of other people out there who make them as a joke or think they're funny or ugly or that, you know, and that's heartbreaking to me. Like I know so many people who are so beautiful in so many different ways. I want them to be able to showcase that in a game that they love, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because if you think about the Aura, you've got like, there's so much sexual dimorphism in that race. Like the males are huge.
Yeah.
And then you have the tiny little Lolita girl. I'm not saying that their design isn't cool. I like the design of the Auras. It's fine. And I do like that there's a huge difference between the males and females. But why don't we have something where like it exists in nature where you have like spiders where the females are huge.
Yeah.
They literally use the male and then they eat him. So why can't we have can't we have a race where you have a huge woman, huge females, and tiny boys?
We haven't seen the female Hrothgar yet. There's a chance they could just be.
Yeah. You have huge, even bigger.
Yeah.
This is the only reason I would have accepted a gender-locked race. They say the women are so big that when they mate with the men, they eat them. So there's
no men left.
There's none left. You're playing the last of the species. And when you go to click on the male version, it just isn't there because they just they're eaten.
I mean, that's what people thought about Mikote and that sort of thing. They're like, oh, there's no men because they must just die.
You log into your pre-made character that's been around for years. You just get a little text message. Sorry, you've been eaten. You're done.
It's just a percentage chance.
Let us tell you something about the lore that's changed.
Male Vieira are traditionally on the smaller side, aren't they?
Yeah.
I would love it.
Yeah.
Wait, male Vieira exists?
They do.
They said they didn't.
They do. They do. We just don't see them ever because as soon as they have one NPC model, why can't players make that? That's, you know.
Yeah.
I'm being that hopeful person who's like 6.0. We'll get the flip-flop. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I hope we do.
Yoshida comes out on stage. We never said that we wouldn't add them. We just said it would be hard.
Yep.
We said it would be the last race. Well, these are the same races. They're just the flip-flop.
Yeah.
I
mean, maybe not in the next one.
They half-assed the release of Hrothgars and Vieiras.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Their emotes are trash. Like, I love Vieira characters, but oh my god, like if you compare a Mikote or an Aura versus a Vieira, like their emotes, they're just all like, heh.
Yeah,
you know, they're like, hey.
There's like no hairstyles. They said that hats would be coming. They'd be working on it in time, but like not much has really been changed or released. Like they're so limited this far in the expansion. I was just talking about it the other day on stream that I was like, I'm so disappointed that they would have released two races. Could have just released.
They're both unfinished as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they're both unfinished. So it's basically one because they're half. And you have Hrothgar, whose hair is attached to the face style.
Yes. It's like Alra. It's like
with the
horns.
Yeah.
But like it's even worse because like you were saying, there's so few options. And even the new gear that's getting put into the game, half of it doesn't work on them. Yeah. Which we've talked about this on
has no excuse.
It has
if you can't go back and redo all the hundreds of gear sets, okay. Well, maybe we can let that slide a little bit, but not making everything going forward work?
What I said too, yeah.
That's a bad design call. Like, to approve that was a terrible decision.
But how are the heads that different? Male Rogadin heads are huge. Okay, Hrothgar's are bigger. I get it. Size it bigger. You do it with the Lalafels, you stretch the materials to fit around their bodies, their more potato-like bodies, and it works, right? But the Viera, they just have ears. Why couldn't they wear anything and just have the ears stick out? Just have it clip like you do with the tails.
Yeah,
right. The Coday tails clip everything now. Why can't Viera ears?
I was wearing something the other day and the ears just clip right through the hood of it. And I was like, why is this the only piece that I've worn as Viera that the ears stick straight up through the hood instead of it just disappearing?
Because the modeler for that gear was like, you know what? We could just make this freaking thing clip. Done. And they forgot to mention it in the meeting the next week. And
I don't even care if it clips. What I do care about is getting gear that I worked for in the game and not being able to use any of that gear. Like, especially when you're doing, I don't know, like if you're talking about raiding or talking about any other kind of like turnover gear acquisition, right? It feels especially bizarre to get something and then when that gear is no longer relevant in anything with any eye level, right? To not even be able to use it for glamour or like to not even be able to have that iconic look. And like, even if it was just like, it gets turned into a headband that kind of has a little bit of whatever that thing is, that's fine with me. But what's less fine with me is all this stuff that I'm getting or working towards where an entire piece of the whole ensemble just does not appear on my
especially in a game where the community is so obsessed about glamour and how their characters look. It's they miss the mark by malms, if we're gonna use their terminology. It's just it's bad.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, because like we said, all of the new gear. Look, I would even forgive them if like the re-skinned gear didn't fit them, right? Because they've just changed the colors. But any new type of gear set, which is what they release in like the Savage tiers, things like 24-mans and stuff, why can't that, if it's brand new, that should fit?
24-man hats actually do go on.
Do they?
Hell yeah.
The hoods go on from the near stuff, which is amazing because they're like the only hoods.
The little like captain hood or little what do you call that? It's like
a little hat,
that little captain type thing that the healers and the casters get. That one goes on, but that like goes between their ears, so it makes sense.
Like a little like a beret kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of ish.
But in other words, the thing that doesn't require any more work fits.
Right.
Yeah. But at that point, it does feel like, why even release these races? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you just pick a different race that you could actually make, accessible for people? And it's like, I get that demand was there and that obviously there's a lot of hype about it. But it does feel like, especially when you compare it to like any other MMO where you're kind of going like, well, okay, this should be a thing and I'm not entirely sure why it's acceptable that it isn't. Like, I'm not sure why. So, I mean, they've said that they are going to be supposedly, like you were saying, expanding it or, even retroactively trying to put more stuff in or things like that. But it is really tough right now when you have so few options, so few hairstyles. You can't even use the optional hairstyles you might have unlocked on them, but you can on Alra and stuff, and they've got crazy face stuff going on. So
I want to take a second here too, Azazel in the chat. Why didn't we get Lupins?
I know.
They come out of nowhere in Stormblood. The Lupins, they're like the wolf people. They're just like, hey, a new race, check it out. Also, here's Hrothgar. They can't wear hats.
Yeah. Actually, though, were the Lupins, were any of them female?
No.
Not that I know of.
Oh wait, there's one.
I feel like maybe there was one.
Because I remember people saying that they looked exactly the same and there wasn't much diversity.
Right.
I think there is one that you encounter in the story or a side but they do look exactly identical, which is fine with me.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lupin would have been cool just because we also would have had some contrast there with like we already have a cat race.
And it's so weird for them to just be like introduce a whole new race and then it's like, okay, and we're done with them. Like they're in like 3 cutscenes where whatever, they did what they were needed. Like, okay.
Yeah.
It's the same person that came up with Lupins that designed Moonbrita. We'll bring them in for like one little thing and then we'll forget about them. They'll be gone.
Yeah. It's really harsh, man.
Truth hurts.
We just have to really stay the course because WoW. You think about WoW, and I would not say that 16 years later they would still be adding to, their cosmetics. I mean, you look at the humans in WoW now have actual race options. Like they're adding so much to it. We stay the course. If it's something that we want to see, we just keep talking about it. Like, it eventually happened there. And if you would have told me 7 years ago that WoW would do any of that, I would say there's no way. They don't have the resources. Their engine's too old. Like I would have all the same excuses. So,
and like we always say about 14, they do listen when we ask for
They
stuff.
do.
Right.
They
Yeah.
do.
But,
Change does happen. It is unfortunate that change is slow, but it does happen. And all you can do is just keep pushing for it. Just keep voicing it. Just because you're voicing something that you dislike about the game or you wish they could do doesn't mean you hate the game.
Right.
Yeah, we love the game. That's why we're here, and that's why we have strong opinions on the game, because it means a lot.
Yeah,
and we think it could do better in some.
Why am I on this podcast?
Yeah,
right. We did talk about housing for like 20 minutes.
We did. You're right.
Oh, trust me, Sonya. We had many thoughts recently about housing and housing interfaces and glitching not just being a feature of the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you said the word fellowship, we could go on another 30-minute tangent.
Oh, I hate them so much.
Yeah, and then there's fusion. Yeah,
but yeah.
Wow. All right, so we're at just about 3 hours now. I think it's probably about time to wrap things up.
I told you.
Right? Is there anything else relevant to the topic that we want to talk about?
I think for the rest of eternity, anytime I'm like, actually, I'd like to add one thing. I'm going to make Fusion nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
that was really good.
That was, I was not prepared for that.
Really, you were just like, can we just talk about dick pics for a second?
It's a form of harassment, It's something.
It's relevant.
It is a real thing.
No matter the topic.
Yeah.
Talk about
that. Okay.
I will use that later, and you will not see it coming.
Just make it everyone's like little clip before they go onto a be right back screen or something. Is talk about dick pics for a second. Leave.
And then you just have a couple extra little audio bits that just kind of come in there during the screen, talking about filters and. Did you download the new Instagram update yet? No, I haven't. Did they add new filters? All right. Before we wrap this up, we want to give our guests a chance to give some shout outs and let us know where we can find them. Galaxy, we'll start with you.
Okay. Hello. And also thank you for coming by. And also, guys, thank you for having me. You can find me on Twitch. Mostly it is Galaxy AUS. The AUS stands for Australia. Somebody stole just Galaxy. Everywhere else, you can find me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. It is Galaxy AUS as well, but add another Y in. And yeah, that's where you'll find me. I stream nowhere near this time. So we're now at like 8:15 in the morning for me here in Australia. So I typically stream like probably from maybe 4 a.m. CST onwards.
Big schedule hero.
Sonya, how about you?
So you guys can find me here on Twitch. Me and my husband stream together, so you'll find both of us. So if you ever stop in, you'll see him too. Our name is Simply Two. It's pretty easy. It's Simply Two.
Ah.
We just recently changed our name. Actually, we just changed to 3 weeks ago. We used to be Enraged Gaming, so a lot of you guys probably have seen us around the directory. We are also on Twitter under Simply Two, but it has a TV at the end. And yee, I have a YouTube that I'm working on. I'm actually getting ready to start doing housing tutorials and stuff like that to teach people how to glitch stuff, because a lot of people ask those questions, and I'm going over them like daily on stream. So we'll be doing that very soon, and it's Simply Two TV as well.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a really good discussion. Coming up, lots of stuff coming up for Final Fantasy XIV. Again, live letter, July 22nd. If you don't like to sleep and stay up in the middle of the night, 4 a.m. Pacific, or if you're Galaxy, it's just like, what, lunchtime?
Normal night.
So we will be talking about the live letter next week. And then August 11th will be patch 5.3. So the 15th will be our hands-on. August 18th will be our 11-year anniversary stream. We are still planning just a few details on that. But spoiler, we will have some giveaways. So you'll be able to win some stuff. And then 22nd will be our patch 5.3 review. And the 29th will be our 5.3 lore cast. So there is a lot of stuff in the works. We hope you look forward to it. If you want, you can reach us by email, aetheryteradio@gamerscape.com. You can tweet at us at aetheryteradio. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Discord at Gamerscape, discord.gg/Gamerscape. We have an Aetheryte Radio channel on there where you can talk to us about the show. We also want to thank everybody for tuning in today, following, subscribing. We had a lot of new follows today. Thank you. Welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. And you know what? Be excellent to each other. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.